Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS, has arrived deep in the heart of Texas, Austin to be precise. The Lone Star State capital has long been a hub for live music and great food, and has become a destination for race fans as well. Located 11 miles outside of Austin proper, Circuit of the Americas is a 20-turn, 3.5-mile homage to some of the great race courses from around the world. And this weekend it hosts rounds 5 and 6 of the North American season. Fanatec GT World Challenge America is one of 4 global SRO Fanatec GT championships with series in Asia, Australia, and Europe. This weekend at COTA marks the 3rd stop of a 7-weekend calendar, culminating in October in Indianapolis.
Howdy folks, welcome to the heart of Texas, where the spirit of the Wild West meets the thrill of GT racing. It's the 3rd event on the season for Fanatec GT, and our drivers, the best in the business, are ready to lasso one of the most unpredictable tracks in North America. SRO continues to operate across the globe, racing in Australia and in Asia, and our SRO Europe friends are racing in tandem with us this weekend at Misano in Italy. Speaking of those Italians, we have a 296 Ferrari as part of our expanded stable this weekend. That showcases 7 global manufacturers right here at the Circuit of the Americas. Yeehaw! With more entries, that means we're going to have Texas-sized drama, the size of that tower we were just on. But the twists and turns here at the Circuit of Americas, they'll test the mettle of even your toughest cowgirl. The elevation changes, well, that'll have you feel like you're riding up and down on a runaway horse. But as we saw in Sonoma and Sebring, the new regulations that replaces the pit windows with minimum driver times, that makes that cowboy swap that much more important. As they say, don't squat with your spurs on. So who'll be all hat, no cattle this weekend, and who will be tougher than a $2 steak? We have a real rodeo of a race here this weekend, where only the grittiest GT Wrangler will come out on top. Saddle up, folks, let's go racing in Austin.
Just outside Austin, Texas, that's where you find the Circuit of the Americas. Hello and welcome to the next round of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America, powered by AWS season. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside. You just heard from Amanda Busick. We'll be hearing from her more shortly. This is Sunday, race 2 of the weekend, Calvin, so plenty of stories that carry over from day 1. First and foremost being breakthrough win for Corvette and DXDT Racing yesterday.
Yeah, first global win for that new Chevy Corvette race car. Alec Udell and Tommy Milner just did a brilliant job. Execution was perfect. Really clean race, and a really feather in that team's cap to make that transition over to the Corvettes and so early see success. They're going to be tough to beat here today as well, but they start a little bit deeper in the pack than they did here yesterday.
First global win for that new GT3 Corvette. Very, very cool for the DXDT team. Another team that is going from strength to strength is ST Racing, specifically Neil Verhagen and Samantha Tan. They were strong yesterday and on pole again here today. Really, really impressive, the performance they have been putting up week to week.
Yeah, super strong. Took the Pro-Am win here yesterday, and with that, they vault to the championship lead by 8 points over the 0-4 CrowdStrike by Riley, entry of George Kurtz and Colin Brown, and they start from the pole here today. It's actually a BMW sweep of the front row with 2 Pro-Am entries, with ST Racing number 38, with Neil Verhagen starting this race, and alongside BMW factory pilot Robbie Foley aboard the number 29 Turner Motorsports entry.
And Amanda also referenced some newcomers. We'll talk more about those throughout the course of this race. As you can see, though, it's already a warm afternoon here in Texas with temperatures around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, track temperatures soaring, and crucially, the humidity, 54%. That makes a hot day in the office even hotter.
It does, because we had kind of a cold front through here earlier in the weekend, and that's passed and has gradually ramped up the heat, and the humidity is much different to yesterday. It shouldn't really affect the track conditions too much, but certainly inside those cockpits, it's going to be a toasty afternoon for all of these drivers.
It's a great atmosphere on the grid. This grid walk we have at all of the Fanatec GT World Challenge America races on the Sunday. If you have a chance to get out, we certainly encourage you to do so. You can get up close and personal with many of the cars and stars of the series. down here at on the grid. Well, speaking of the grid, our Amanda Busick is standing by amongst the throng. Amanda, what do you have your eyes on?
Well, I can tell you everyone is getting into the spirit down here. We can hear the mariachi band out to the right of us, but take a look at Tom Sargent here this afternoon in full getup. We got the cowboy hat, we got the boots. Not sure if he can drive in those, he said. He wasn't sure if he could fill his brake points correctly, but all attention goes on that DXDT Corvette. They got the first win for Corvette here in North America, right here globally for SRO America, but the guy that was behind the wheel when we saw that checkered flag was none other than Tommy Milner, and I'm sure it was a riot last night. Corvette said there would be some celebration, but you got race day today. How tame did you guys keep it?
I was pretty tame last night for sure. All the drivers and us went out and just had a nice meal. But a lot of time after the race with Dave and with the whole team, you can see how much that win meant to them, and also with GM and Chevrolet. I was a big contingent of them here this weekend as well, so they were all very, very excited and happy to let's kind of get that monkey off their back.
I heard Jim Campbell was even asking for some photos of the celebration. I know it was a big deal for Chevy and for Corvette. What was some of the praise you guys received?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think just about every one of my crew guys from the Pratt Miller team all kind of sent messages, had nice messages from Laura Klauser, sort of our big boss there on the racing side. So. Yeah, all eyes were on this Corvette yesterday. I know Indy's going on as well, so there's a lot happening in the racing world, but getting that win yesterday was big for Chevrolet.
Congratulations to the DXDT Corvette racing team. And as we move up the grid, you guys talked about it. All eyes are on some of the championship already. You mentioned ST Racing. They picked up a win yesterday. They're going to kick off this poll. You see this RS1 Porsche. They were runner-up in Pro-Am yesterday. In the Pro category, the first on the grid that we're going to come across in the race is the Wright Motorsports. And they are the points leader currently. But Ryan, I know we put you out on the field to check out a story that we've been following all week. There was a big celebration for one of our long-term teams of Turner Motorsport, and we know that Will Turner can tell some stories. Ryan, what'd you find out?
Last weekend at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca was a milestone weekend for Turner Motorsport. 557 starts representing the BMW brand. Will, and you surpassed a legendary name in BMW Motorsport in Schnitzer in doing so. What was the reaction when you were able to achieve that milestone?
Well, first, it's a little bit surreal, as you and I were talking a little earlier, when we started going back to looking at the photos and stuff of when we started professional racing in 1998 with BMW. It brought back a lot of memories, and to have surpassed Team Schnitzer as the BMW team with the most starts is amazing, because you know, I never thought that we would make it, well, not that I didn't think, but I never counted on making it to the next race back in 1998, never mind doing this 26 years later. But it's been an awesome ride, and I look forward to doing it a lot more.
Let's look back on 1998. It was in this paddock. It was known as SCCA World Challenge at that time, and you weren't just the team owner, you were the driver as well.
Yeah, so I remained the driver, the transportation officer, the chief bottle washer, everything for quite a few years, and that was obviously out of necessity. I didn't have the means to hire people back then, but yeah, that was it was interesting, because again, I would be working on the cars or help working on the cars, driving the truck sometimes, and then doing these races. And you know, over the years, obviously, we've evolved. Now I have the luxury of flying in and watch my guys race, which is great. It was a hard transition going from driver and team owner to just team owner, but it's been, again, like I say, it's been an awesome ride.
Looking at the names that have driven for you over the years, Boris Said, Bill Auberlen, Dirk Muller, Joey Hand, so many more. These are who's who in terms of BMW drivers over the years. How much pride does it give you to look back and know that you were associated with such great talents?
Yeah, again, when we're looking at the photos, we're also looking at the drivers, and you mentioned a bunch of them, but there's a long list of drivers that have been through our cars. And you know, I can honestly say that it's been a pleasure having each and every one of those drivers in the Turner BMWs. You know, the BMW Motorsport driver that's driven the most for me, Bill Auberlen, still in the paddock, except this time we're competing kind of against him, although he's in a different class. He is in a BMW. So that's exciting because Bill and I have been friends, and he's done a lot for Turner Motorsport, had a lot of wins, a lot of race starts contributing to the number. And but also we've helped him become the winningest sports car driver in North America too. So it goes both ways. But over the years, it's been great having all those drivers in the car.
557 is a lot of races. Do any stand out as salient memories for you?
You know, a lot of them, and I've been asked that question before, a lot of them stand out. But one that specifically is important for this weekend is we had a double race win at COTA. Here, we won both classes, and that was huge because that was the first time Turner Motorsport has ever won 2 major pro races in one weekend. And for sure, hopefully we can do it again, but that was great.
We should emphasize it's 557 and counting. You're hoping to add 4 more to the tally here this weekend. What's the future look like?
Yeah, so it's nice being able to run 4 races in one weekend because that does boost that number. But hey, we're going for 1,000. Why not?
You heard it here first. Will Turner, Turner Motorsport, looking for 1,000 starts, but making starts 558 through 561, hopefully, here this weekend at COTA.
And congratulations to Turner Motorsports. This will be the 561st race of them, and I'm definitely going to track down Calvin Fish for an autograph of that photo we saw of our partner up there. But Robbie Foley catching up on the celebration with Turner Motorsports. How many of you been a part of these?
It's been quite a few now. I think we're over 100 for sure, close to 120. But yeah, this team's given me a great opportunity to race for them for the last couple of years and live my dream racing at this level in some great cars. So thanks to Will, and it's a huge accomplishment for everybody in the team, and hopefully another 500 from here.
Just quickly, how much confidence does it give you as a driver just to know what kind of platform is underneath you?
It's definitely a very confidence-inspiring thing. Like, we always have great cars. The team does a great job. It's a family atmosphere. Very fun, but very serious. We take the racing very serious. So great to have these guys prepping cars, and hopefully a fast BMW today.
Well, if you can see that flag behind Robbie Foley, it says the Fanatec GT World Challenge, and that is exactly what the SRO Global Motorsports is all about. We race in Asia, we race in Australia, we're racing in Europe this weekend at Misano from race 1 and race 2.
All eyes were on Valentino Rossi before race 1 of Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS Sprint Cup. His car was on pole position, started by Maxime Martin, and it led as the race got underway. The run down towards turn 1, putting the BMW ahead, with a hard-charging Marvin Deans going from 4th up to 3rd, and then being able to squeeze up alongside Ben Green's Ferrari, putting him 2nd as Mathieu Drudi got a tap from behind, and the Aston Martin was unsettled as the field turned its way around the hairpin for the first time. A great battle ensued, though, between Ben Green and Dries Vanthoor. Contact between the two ultimately opened the door. Vanthoor went by, the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari team unimpressed, but no action taken. So once ahead of the Ferrari, Vanthoor was able to keep on pushing, as further back, Jules Gounon pushed, but got himself a bit tangled up with Hugo de Wilde's Lamborghini. So when the pit window opened, it was Martin ahead of a hard-charging Marvin Deans. The BMW would hang on to its race lead. Deans relayed Philipp Zager, who was under attack for the Bronze Cup lead from Darren Lung, although he would have a spin in the BMW that allowed the Porsche to come through victorious. All eyes then turned to what was going on up front with the WRT BMWs, because a nervous Maxime Martin was watching his car under attack. Valentino Rossi had been hunted down by Charles Weerts. The gap was coming down and down and down, and for lap after lap, Rossi was under massive pressure, but Weerts just could not make a move. And so, for a 2nd career win in Fanatec GT, Valentino Rossi came across the line to win, and it was a delighted valet, a delighted and relieved Maxime Martin, and a very happy and very vocal crowd at Misano. Race 1 honours to Maxime Martin and Valentino Rossi. Let's look at race 2. It began with a bang as Stefan Denoel get it wrong coming off turn 16 and was in the wall before he got to the timing line. That was his race done, and a safety car triggered. Not only for that, but also Darren Lung's BMW turned sideways at turn 1, and that dropped way, way down the order. And then more drama up at turn 4 when Alex Arca decided to use the Nicolas Bart Audi as a brake and went charging up the inside and cannoned into the side of the Aston and turned it around. but was able to rejoin, although in the end the car retired with Matteo Drudi behind the wheel. When the race got going again, there was a big push from Valentino Rossi, and he moved himself ahead of Simon Gachet in the number 111 Gold Cup leading Audi. More battles raged on lower down as Gilles Magnus worked his way up past Luca Enschler and therefore through into the lead of Gold Cup. Charles Weerts arrived all locked up as he slithered with precise parking into his pit box. But after the pit stops, although 32 led, it was the Mercedes in the hands of Mauro Engel that was up into second and Maxime Martin in for Valentino Rossi, down to third. Engel pushed and closed on Vantor. Martin pushed and closed on Engel as the battle in bronze became ever more entertaining. True in gold and silver as well, and there was some great racing all the way around the circuit. Dan Harper ruthless as he got past Hugo de Wilde. Mauro Engel pushed and closed, and the sparks flew in his quest to get onto terms with Dries Van Voor in the lead, but he just could not get there in time. And every time the Mercedes closed, Dries Van Voor was able to just tweak the pace a little bit and pull away to take an 18th career victory, the second of the year for Dries Van Voor and Charles Weerts.
A busy day at Misano for Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. A true doubleheader with two races on the same day, including that night race you saw a few moments ago. And that's, of course, because the focus in Europe and indeed very soon globally will shift to the 100th anniversary running of the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa later on this summer. So a lot to look forward to there. But of course, here in Texas at Circuit of the Americas, we had a classic race yesterday. Really fun stuff with battles all throughout the pack. But as we look back on our history here at Circuit of the Americas, of course, a lot of great races to reflect on as well, including a race from 2021. This was race number 2, final lap. A couple of K-Pax teammates going for the glory on the last lap of a 90-minute race. Jordan Pepper, the leader in the black number 3, but coming under pressure from his teammate Giovanni Venturini. Venturini smelling blood, able to make the move to the inside, grab the lead off of the South African Jordan Pepper. A lead he would not relinquish the rest of the lap. He would go on to claim the win in this race, and it was a remarkable race for a number of reasons. Caldarelli and Jordan Pepper in the number 3 car actually started towards the back of the pack, dropped out of the top 10, had to charge their way through the field, got some help from a full course yellow late in the going, and with that, Jordan Pepper was able to get the car to the front, but as you saw, lost the lead late in the race to his teammate Giovanni Venturini, who held on to take the first win of the season for that car. The sister car had swept all the races up to that point, so for Venturini and Corey Lewis, this was a big moment for them. Of course, Pepper and Caldarelli went on to win the championship for the K-Pax Racing team back in 2021. Little trip down memory lane here at Circuit of the Americas, and very soon we'll make some new history at COTA with the second running of these GT races here this weekend. Starting on the pole, ST Racing's Neil Verhagen. He'll have Robbie Foley and a fellow BMW alongside. Then Colin Brown and Elliott Skier, Trent Hedman, Tommy Milner winning yesterday for DXDT Racing. What a day it was for Chevrolet, for Corvette, and for that DXDT Racing team. A little bit of work to do, though, if they're going to go back-to-back here at COTA. A little bit further down the grid, Tom Sargent starting 7th, Andy Lee at 8th, Brian Sellers 9th, and Zach Veach for the Racers Edge team looking to rebound after their race ended on the first lap of the race one day ago. Well, it's time now for our pre-race festivities. For the national anthem, please welcome Smooth Nature with the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming? Ooh. use broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight. All the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Austin, Texas, of course, one of the best cities in the country, if not the world, for live music. And a little snippet of it there with Smooth Natured on the grid with the national anthem. Well, we're getting closer and closer to the start of the second race of the weekend here at Circuit of the Americas. This place is one of a kind, 20 turns, 3.5 miles, and no better way to learn our way around COTA than with our Fanatec track preview.
Welcome to the Fanatec GT track preview from Circuit of the Americas. We're on board the Toyota Supra safety car. I've got Parker Thompson here to drive me around this amazing facility, Toyota driver. And they say that everything is bigger and better in Texas. I look at this hill up into turn one. It's amazing. There's an 11-degree incline here, over 100 feet of elevation change, Parker. And the GT3 cars are going about $145 into this turn-in point. How do you approach it?
Well, not only is everything bigger in Texas, but I think there's more pavement at this racetrack than there is in some states here in the United States.
It's incredible. I think they go 4 or 5 wide here at the start.
So, we'll take off. Turn one, so much track, but I keep it simple. Brake at the 100 board, make sure you get down to the apex. There's all this track, but sometimes you use it, you lose it.
So many of the corners here are modeled after famous corners around the world for Grand Prix circuits. This is the Center S we're coming into.
Flat out in our GT4 and GT3 cars, get prepped and start straddling the S's.
And this is like the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Baggett's, Beckett's, Chapel coming through here, just keeps coming at you.
Want to do everything you can to use all the track, but not get on the steward's bad side. Got to keep those lefts and rights on the candy canes.
Track limits are always a big consideration here at Circuit of the Americas. This is a corner of the apex. You really need to eat it up a little bit to open up your hands.
Flat out jump the car over, keep the left sides on, and you're through turn 8.
Been a lot of resurfacing here since last year we competed. What's the grip level like here down into turn 11? Really important corner.
Pretty tough. You got to focus on exit. It's so easy to overshoot the braking, but get the car squared up and get it out for the longest straight into turn 12.
This is 1 kilometer long, about 0.6 of a mile. Top speed going down into the next brake zone is going to be about 162 miles an hour. And that's where things really start to slow down. Great overtaking opportunity down to the inside.
All the passes are going to happen here this weekend, Calvin. This is where everybody goes under attack. Get to the 150, get it braked in, get your downshifts done, and look for that apex. Get her out.
Got to be so patient through here. Reminds me of the Hockenheim Stadium section over in Germany. Very technical.
So many lines you can take here, Calvin. Almost like driving in the wet. But I like to get it nice, tight, narrow, and focus on getting my exits.
Really low speed here, about 40 miles an hour, apex, and then back on the power. Triple apex are coming up. This is turn 8 from Istanbul, it's modeled after.
Now, you can carry a lot of speed, but you want to make sure you get down to those apex curves as we get our money's worth out of the Pirelli tires here.
This reminds me of a corner at Le Mans after Indianapolis. Beautiful flow and rhythm into turn 19.
Float it over the apex curve. Make sure you keep those left sides on the candy canes.
Another important corner, getting a launch off here to finish a lap here at Circuit of the Americas.
Don't discount the roll speed. Got to get a good exit. And that is a lap at Circuit of the Americas.
What a lap. It is immense.
it is certainly a huge challenge for the drivers and the teams this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun.
What a place, Circuit of the Americas, over 100 feet of elevation change around this place, and a great view of it for sure with our track preview. Well, let's head back down to the grid where Samantha Tan is standing by with Amanda.
You're right, Ryan, and it was a really good place for this duo yesterday, Neil Verhagen and Samantha Tan. Samantha just got Neil buckled into the seat of that BMW, but that effort yesterday started by you would end up putting this BMW at the top of the points lead in Pro-Am. How much pride is that in there for you, Sam?
I mean, a lot of pride, especially coming off of last year and the momentum we had. Hoping to keep it up front today.
And what's in your hand down there?
Got a little Polaroid for the vibes today.
We'll wait to see how those develop as well as we do in race number 2 for ST Racing, guys.
Really cool story, Sam getting the win. Of course, it is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month this month, and Samantha on her car has her Chinese name, Song Xin Xin, on the car to commemorate. Let's look back on the race as it played out yesterday, and we had some high drama right at the beginning where the pole sitter, Riccardo Agostini, went long, and behind him, chaos erupted with Philip Ellis going around. Philip Ellis ultimately penalized for the contact because the damage to the Racer's Edge Acura knocked them out of the race. Ellis, as you can see, taking that drive-through penalty early in the going. Once we got restarted, it was all about Philip Ellis trying to recover. He was making his way through the Pro-Am field in the early going. The pit calls came, and AF Corsa brought their car into the pits. They were running an alternate strategy, starting their pro in that machine, with Custodio Toledo set to take it to the finish. Good battles here throughout this pack. A crossover and then a cross back over. And yep, right back to the outside they go again. This was Elliott Skier and Varun Choksi. Contact between the two damaged the Porsche, and as you can see, that rear diffuser hanging on precariously. It ultimately would leave that Porsche car, and that was a good thing too, because we were afraid they would be called to the pit lane. Driving through the field, George Kurtz and Colin Brown able to get to the front in their class, but at the very front of the field, it was all about DXDT Racing across the line to take the first global win for this new Corvette. It was DXDT, Alec Udell, and Tommy Milner picking up the victory. Behind ST Racing winners in the Pro-Am class, of course. That was an exciting race. We hope for more of the same here today. And I think one of the protagonists is standing by with Amanda Busick. It is Adam Adelson.
Well, it's been a big weekend for SRO America, including the Lone Star Enduro, the 3-hour for the Pirelli GT4 Challenge yesterday. And one of the ticket buyers for that was Adam Adelson. You were hanging out. What was that about?
You know, I started in SRO GT4, and I have so many friends who were in that race, so many cars to root for, so many stories to watch unfold. And it was just a blast to do that. You know, support the people who have supported me along the way. And I got to be honest, I love that format. That's a really cool race format, and it was just super fun to watch.
The curbing around this place kind of bit you guys yesterday with the diffuser. It could have been lap 1. Just thinking of the Porsche in this heat, along with the curbing around this place, are you guys at a handicap, or can you overcome it?
It wasn't actually the curbing. The curbing actually saved us by knocking our diffuser all the way off after it was already hanging off the end of our car. We had unfortunate contact in lap 1, and that's what did the damage. So we were driving around with a broken splitter and broken diffuser all race. But the heat definitely makes it difficult. You know, we're naturally aspirated. Our Porsche Flat 6 is pretty strung out as it is. And, you know, but we have an incredible car in terms of downforce, in terms of low-speed dynamics, and in terms of braking and power down. So we just got to utilize what strengths the Porsche has to offer, and hopefully we can get a good result.
Thank you, Adam. And in terms of the curbing, guys, sometimes they say, why have enemies when you have friends when you have enemies like these?
It's a good point, and it did save their day in some respects. I think we all thought that maybe that diffuser got loose because they went over the curbs to begin with, but that does provide a little bit of insight. Thanks to Adam for that. This car, of course, will start 4th on the grid today, but on the pole in the Pro class, the impressive American Elliott Skier is behind the wheel and he's just waiting for the word to start that engine and get this race started. To give the most famous words in motorsports from Texas Mutual Insurance, here's John Sapp with the words we've been waiting for.
All right, Austin, welcome COTA fans. Let's get this thing started. Drivers, start your engines!
That was outstanding. Well done to John Sapp with that command to start engines. And with that, 15 cars roar to life. And we're about ready to go here, Calvin. Race 2 of the weekend.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one with most of the pros starting this race. We had 7 pro drivers at the front of this field lap around this circuit within 0.2 of a second here yesterday in race conditions, so that really promised for a very even match here. Certainly conditions have changed just a little bit, and obviously the teams and the drivers have been tweaking on their setups to try and make their cars a little sharper here today. But BMW's up front. There's a couple of Porsches really close to each other in the top 5. It's going to be a fascinating battle here.
Let's talk strategy briefly. A big component of the race yesterday. This car from A, of course, at the Regulator Racing Mercedes. They elected to start their pros out of the Pro-Am lineups. They were the only ones to do that. That means their pros must finish today. The Am has to start. Everyone else on the opposite strategy. What do you have your eyes on?
Well, I think we've seen this sort of process develop over the last few weekends. Regulator Racing have done it right since the start of this season, and they've come close to podium finishes. But I think the key component is Jeff Burton's doing a really nice job behind the wheel of the 91 Regulator Racing Mercedes AMG, and his pace may give Philip Ellis a chance here to go chase down the leaders at the end of this race. Ideally, what they'd like to see happen is a yellow to compress this field at some point, maybe during Jeff's early stint, or even when Philip Ellis gets behind the wheel, to make those gaps a little closer and allow Philip Ellis to do what he does best, and yesterday the fastest car on the racetrack in race conditions.
It's been a fun change as far as the regulations are concerned. It gives us plenty to talk about with 2 competing strategies. We'll see which one comes out on top here today as we look at the starting grid. Neil Verhagen on the Rover pole position for ST Racing. You can tell this is a BMW track. Robbie Foley in another BMW starts second. Colin Brown and Elliott Skier in row number 2. Skier is on the Pro Class pole. Trent Hindman in RS1. He's back for his second weekend with the team. Tommy Milner, the winner yesterday, to his flank. Then it's Tom Sargent, the Australian, wearing the cowboy boots and cowboy hat earlier today, next to Andy Lee. Good qualifying effort for the Flying Lizard crew. Brian Sellers, he and Scott Smithson will share that number 08 DXDT Racing Corvette. And Zach Veach looking for a bit more luck than Luca Mars had when their race ended on lap 1 yesterday. Aaron Povolato back in a Mercedes with Suez Povolato Racing next to Varun Choksi. Jeff Burton starting in the 13th spot on that alternate strategy next to Alan Metney in his first race weekend with the S's Racing team. And Custodio Toledo, the car that started from pole position yesterday, starts at the back of the field today. But Calvin, that's in part due to the strategy that they elected to play, and it nearly netted them a podium. A little bit smoother pit stop, and I think they would have been spraying some of that champagne at the urging of DJ Clark.
Yeah, I think, as I recall, they lost about 6 seconds during that pit stop exchange, and that could have maybe just kept them on a podium finish there. So again, if they can keep their nose clean here today, if they catch a yellow, compress that field, that'll certainly give Agostini and Philip Ellis a chance to kind of carve their way through this field towards the checkered flag this afternoon.
Well, the weekend has been building to this crescendo as we get ready to go for the final race of the weekend. Toyota GR Supra safety car is off in the pit lane, and the field is under the control of the pole sitter, Neil Verhagen. That's the BMW with the Starry Night style livery. That will be on the left-hand column going this direction. To the flank is Robbie Foley in the Turner BMW. We wait for the green flag. Joanne Coram of McCoy's has it in hand. We are racing here at Circuit of the Americas. Up the hill, Neil Verhagen leads the charge. Up and over those bumps. Foley able to slot in second. The fight is for the 3rd and 4th positions. Further back, cars scrambling every which way, but so far clean and green.
Yeah, nice and clean there. Zach Veach was a little bit wide for the Racers Edge team. That bright red Acura at the tail end of the field there. So was Andy Lee in that bright orange and black Aston Martin. But up front, the 2 BMWs. Nice start there by Neil Verhagen. Robbie Foley looked like he's going to be on the attack from Colin Brown, but he slides back into that 2nd position.
How about Andy Lee? He's looking awfully aggressive in the 511 sponsored Aston Martin from Flying Lizard. That's the one with the black and orange color scheme all over the back of the Corvette a few moments ago. At the front, though, it's all Neil Verhagen, the Connecticut native, leaving the New Jersey native, Robbie Foley. Then it's Colin Brown, and the leader in the pro class, Elliott Skier, sits in that
problems
fourth
here for
spot.
Brian Sellers. Damage, it looks like, to the right front corner.
And that looks like it's some serious damage as well. Sellers limping that car around, but to what extent is it damaged? Will he be able to get back to the pit lane? That remains to be seen. Let's look and see if we can figure out what happened here, Cal. Would be
He's
the
already
second
got
one.
problems. He's kind of deep in the pack there. You see him just going wide there through turn 11. There may have been contact earlier in the lap, but meanwhile, Andy Lee's had a quick spin down into the turn 12 brake zone, it looks like.
Oh, that's tough. Andy was really racy in the early stages of this one. That Flying Lizard team seems to have unlocked some pace potential with the Aston Martin platform, their first year running it at the GT3 level. But we stay green at the front of the field for now, and Foley has jumped Verhagen to take the lead of this race, on board with Neil Verhagen, who finds himself in second.
Two BMW contractor drivers leading this field. It was Verhagen on the pole that led the field up the hill and took the lead into turn 1, but may have been down into that brake zone into turn 12, possibly, that Robbie Foley made the move.
Frantic opening lap comes to a close with Foley leading Verhagen, leading Brown, then Skier, Hinman, Milner, Sargent, Veach, Choxy, and Burton the top 10. Now that he's clear, Foley looks to be firmly in control, pulling out a gap. Verhagen looking vulnerable as Colin Brown looks aggressive. This is the change for the lead here, Cal.
Yeah, it looks like Rowley got a really good exit off of turn 11, got in the draft and was alongside Neil before they even turned into the corner. So then you see the little brush there with the Veach and Andy Lee going side by side through the turn 12 apex. Couldn't quite coexist, and Lee has a quick spin.
Great job by the field, and Aaron Povoleto in particular avoiding that spinning car. And Lee was able to continue on, albeit much delayed. He's dropped back to the 14th spot.
See Trent Henman there moving around into the brake zone there, just trying to distract Elliott Skier, who leads him in the green Porsche. And right behind them is yesterday's winner, Tommy Milner, aboard the DXDT Racing Chevrolet Corvette Z06 GT3R, having another solid run here today with his stablemate on the sidelines early in the going.
Battle starting to develop here in the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th positions. Elliott Skier, leader in the pro class, mind you, but sits 4th on the road, and he's got his mirrors full of Trent Hinman. There was a great battle between those two Porsche teams over the weekend at Sebring a couple of weeks back, and it looks like it has carried forward here to COTA this weekend.
Let's see. Right front tire is down. I'm not sure if there was just damage to that right front corner just by driving it around with it locked in position. It just kind of worn through the tire literally and put it ultimately on the deck. I got a feeling there may have been a hit somewhere on that opening lap with Brian Sellers. And here comes Hinman. Deep move there down into 20, and Skier was just proactive enough there to be kind of moving in the same direction with it versus it being a block and getting the feel from the steward's room.
Right on the ragged edge, and it's held up this entire pack. In fact, now Hinman finds himself a bit vulnerable as Milner looks around the outside, but Milner can't be too aggressive because he's got his mirrors full. Just behind him is Tom Sargent in the EVU-sponsored Porsche for GMG.
Well, he's surrounded by Porsches right now. We talked about his dad, who was a longtime BMW entrant, and he hated Porsches. And right now, Tommy Milner Jr. is kind of hating Porsches as well.
Right, he's got two out front, one right behind him. It is a tough spot for the Corvette driver to find himself in. Not too far behind is Zach Veach, who's had a nice start from 10th on the grid, up into 8th, although there was the contact with the Andy Lee car. We've seen no mention from race control of any incident being under review. Quite frankly, that looked like it was pretty tight racing, clean racing, that just had an unfortunate result for Andy Lee. Ooh. Catch our breath here for a couple of moments, and while we do so, let's check in with Amanda.
Well, if the camera can get it, I do have a little live look of this tire. The team actually is really not sure what happened. They haven't heard any radio communications from Brian Sellers. You'll remember they had some radio communications yesterday with the other team, so see if that's the case. Not sure if there was contact, but definitely a puncture for that front right tire. The team did pull that off and look under the car just to check if there was any suspension damage. Gave a thumbs up, put a tire on it, and Brian's back on track.
Appreciate the update. As far as I'm aware, was he able to stay on the lead lap? I think so. That's crucial. If they can catch a yellow, they might be back in the game.
Yeah, it's a long lap here, and that incident happened kind of halfway around this almost 3.5 mile circuit. But up front, Foley's looking rock solid here. It's gapped Neil Verhagen a little bit. But it's going to be a long stint for these pro drivers. Anticipate them being out on the racetrack for the maximum 50-minute stint drive time. The drivers on the alternate strategy, you have started an AM. Look for them to be in as early as 51 minutes and 16 seconds to go on the board to try and give their pro driver the maximum drive time available.
It's all BMW in power up front. Robbie Foley with the CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race, 2:05.682, just marginally quicker than this car. Let's ride on board for a couple of corners here with Neil Verhagen as he chases the race leader.
Miles an hour right there as you go to the brake pedal to turn in for turn 11. Then it's a 1 kilometer dyno run here all the way to turn 12 and the best overtaking opportunity on the racetrack.
Yeah, that run from turn 11 to turn 12. Even in these GT3 cars, it takes a while to get from point A to point B, but when you arrive, great passing opportunity, really tight corner waiting at the end of this long straight. Robbie Foley opportunistic, grabbing the lead on the opening lap ahead of Neil Verhagen. Those two BMWs starting to check out on Colin Brown, who seats third. Then it's Skier, Hickman, Miller, Sargent, Veach, Chauncey, and Burton doing a nice job on that alternate strategy. Let's take a look at Race Vision powered by AWS. Most places gained. Chauncey and Burton each up 3 spots. Veach and Metney, as well as Toledo, up a couple of positions too.
Yeah, and that's great news for Philip Ellis. We talked about the reverse strategy for the 91 Regulator Racing team. Jeff Burton's got really nice pace here this weekend, done a solid job with the start and running lap times within a couple of seconds of the leaders. So that's a much smaller delta than we saw both at Sonoma and at Sebring when they tried to use the alternate strategy to get the win.
More fast laps pouring in as the field comes across the line. Foley resets the benchmark time down to a 2:05.635. Verhagen basically mirroring him. He was only 0.05 of a second slower on the last lap, but those two BMWs are the only cars running in the 2:05 bracket. Everyone else 2:06 or above.
Yeah, they're a solid half a second quicker than the field right now, but again, it's going to be a long stint, so as we get deep into it, what is the tire degradation factor going to be like, particularly in this heat? As you see Skier there, kicking up the dust there, coming through those high-speed S's. We talked about the damage on the race car yesterday with Adam Adelson, his teammate. That happened somewhere on the first lap. And then he was driving around with like literally that rear diffuser flailing around in the wind, and ultimately it came off the race car. It's not so much of an issue for a driver if it's completely out of there. It's when it's loose. We saw Bill Oberlin struggling with the balance of his car with a broken rear diffuser, and that just gives you really inconsistent handling versus having zero downforce coming from the rear. You can adjust to that, but when it's giving you a different balance each and every corner. Side by side here with Lee, trying to make up some ground after that early spin.
On the road to recovery, makes the pass on Toledo. That moves Andy Lee up to 9 in Pro-Am. Brian Sellers at the back of that pack after their trouble on the opening lap, coming in with the flat tire. That's been replaced. He is back out, per our report from Amanda. This is a fun battle here for 6th. Jeff Burton doing a really nice job to keep the very experienced Aaron Povoledo behind him at this stage. And then Alan Metney sitting back there too. This is his home track. It's his first race with this team. this year, but looking really comfortable in that Mercedes for S's Racing.
Yeah, they've had a solid weekend. They've got to be happy to be doing this on their home turf, so to speak. But we see the 3 AMG Mercedes running line astern right now. Burton's just got to handle this pressure, keep it clean, give his teammate a shot moving forward in the second half of this race. We keep talking about that. It's a very different dynamic to what Jeff Burton's been used to. He's kind of running in isolation at the first 2 rounds of the championship. He's got a little bit of a race going on here today, however.
Another update from Amanda in the pit. She lets us know that it was a valve stem that was broken on Brian Sellers' wheel, and that's what caused the tire to go down. That almost certainly stemmed from contact. Really, really unfortunate to cost them a nice, strong start to this race.
That would make sense. So suddenly the tire is completely deflated, and then it just got wrapped up in the bodywork and just locked in position there as he came sliding into his pit stall. So tough to coexist with those high-speed S's on the opening lap. But here we see Aaron Povolato really heaping the pressure on Jeff Burton here, looking for an opportunity. Can they keep it clean? Metney just sits there in the shadows waiting for something to happen.
We were talking about this pre-race off air about Jeff Burton's pace this weekend. This strategy here on day 2, this is all about Jeff Burton keeping the gap to the front of the pack as close as possible, knowing he's up against much more experienced drivers at this stage, and then letting Philip Ellis do his thing in the second half of the race. This weekend, his pace delta to the rest of the field is a little bit more on point, and that could open up the possibility for a good result today.
Yeah, it really is. As you can see, he's right in the heat of this pack here. Whereas the first couple rounds of the championship, now Povolato opens up the door, slides up to the inside. That's turn 13. Toledo's done a nice job in that Ferrari there, keeping this pack in front of him within range at least.
Povolato with that move up into 6th in class. Been a tough weekend for that team. They damaged one of the 2 cars they have here. They have 1 car apiece for Fanatec GT as well as the single driver GT America Championship. But today, because of the incident yesterday, they are forced to use the same chassis in both races. Luckily had a clean run in GT America earlier this morning as Metney goes wide. Andy Lee fills that gap and might have caught Allen a bit off guard. Back to the point. Thankfully a clean run earlier today for Ross West in GT America. And as a consequence, they've got something they can fight with here today, looking for a strong result. Talking about the Jeff Burton story, Regulator Racing, Amanda is standing by with more.
Yeah, when I was talking to Philip Ellis ahead of this weekend, he really likes race number 2 for this alternative strategy. Thought that they could have had a real good shot at it at Sebring, but that little contact that Philip had took them out of contact. But when you talk about Jeff Burton and the strides that he's made, Philip Ellis backed that up. He's been really happy to see the growth and development of his co-driver and thinks that in terms of this alternate strategy, it's simply just a matter of time for this effort.
Got on the podium at Sebring, so it showed he could work, and a couple of other teams now have elected to go that route. Of course, with Custodio Toledo. It's their first weekend in the series, but they elected to go that route. And then even in the pro ranks, where here in America you have to have a silver-graded driver as part of that lineup, we saw that the ST Racing team has elected to do that with Varun Choksi and Bill Auberlin.
Yeah, so that's why you got Choksi behind the wheel starting this race, and Bill's going to jump in. They had a damaged race car yesterday, still finished on the podium. Been super consistent this year, but just need to find and tap a little bit more pace in that car. They've been scratching their heads a little bit why their setup has to be so different to get the balance compared to the Verhagen. Here we see Andy Lee. That's a bold move down to the inside, just keeps it clean. It's going to give Metney a run on Burton here as we accelerate off that really low speed turn 15.
Well judged by Jeff, though, letting Lee through. Now he does have a little bit of trouble in the rearview mirror, and that is Metney, sharing that car with Will Hardiman. Saw this team in the season opener at Sonoma. Adam Carroll was the second driver alongside Hardiman there, as he was in their limited schedule last year. But the plan is for Metney to be aboard the rest of the season. They initially were going to run as an AM class entry, but without another AM car in the field, they decided to stay in Pro-Am as they were at Sonoma. and mixing it up with their peers right now.
It's a little bit of rear bodywork damage on the Flying Lizard number 8 of Andy Lee. Been through the wars a little bit here today. It's probably that brush with Veach there on the opening lap, I would assume.
Speaking of Zach, he's been dinged twice with track limits warnings. I believe there will only be one more, and that is for the car, not just for the driver. So when the driver change occurs, as of now, Luca Mars would inherit 2 warnings. He'd only have 1 more in his back pocket.
Yeah, and I believe on the 4th warning, it's a 3-second post-race penalty, and an additional one would be another 5. You got to watch that. It's always a bone of contention here at Circuit of the Americas with the expansive racetrack itself, and then the runoff room that you have. Drivers are always looking for a little bit more. You give them a bunch, they want a little bit more, and they'll exceed those track limits, and the boundaries have been set. So otherwise, you just end up in a very different part of the racetrack, and from a safety perspective, it gets a little bit wild in case you did have a moment when you're way out of bounds.
Veach has run down Tom Sargent here. Behind him is Choxy coming through. This is Skier, the leader in the pro class. Behind him is Hinman. Then you get to Tommy Milner, second place in the pro class in that DXTT Corvette. Then Sargent, then Veach. This is the best we've seen that Racer's Edge car look this year relative to their peers in the pro class, keeping in mind that that deal came together super late with very limited testing, actually really no testing prior to the season. And it's being done on a budget that dictates that there's not any testing going on in between events either. So they know it's going to be a real challenge this season. But it's a good team, 2 good young drivers, and they're up for it.
It's a championship winning team, and it's a great race car. It seems to have good balance of performance compared to some of the other manufacturers at a number of the circuits that we run at. So they'll get it. I mean, it's just going to take them to get the race weekends. But now we have a big break, so it's almost like an off season for that group. But if you're not going to go testing, that doesn't really help you. But 2 quality young drivers, led by John Meraki. And hopefully they'll see themselves on a podium run here towards the end of the season and get a little bit sharper and get used to this new platform for both of them.
Saw that battle coming through the picture there. Milner, Sargent, Veach, then Choxy. Then you got to wait a little while to get to Povolato. And Andy Lee starting to chase Aaron down, 10th and 11th overall, but would be a position in class that's up for grabs. Let's take a look at this Andy Lee car here in slow motion, Calvin. We mentioned the bodywork earlier. Did it come dislodged over the curb? I think it did.
It did. And Adam Adelson talked about that. The curbs can actually be your friend. So that stops it maybe rubbing and getting into one of those rear tires. But Andy Lee is flying. I mean, he just laid down a lap of a 206.1. That's only 0.6 off the leader's pace. So I think that Flying Lizard Motorsports Group, we talk about the Racer's Edge team and their drivers in particular getting up to speed with their race car. I think for Andy Lee and the whole group, they're learning what makes that Aston Martin Vantage tick a little bit. And they're getting stronger and stronger, it seems, every single weekend. Had a clutch issue during qualifying sessions here yesterday. Got that changed out. So a bit of a thrash to get the car on the grid yesterday, but they did make it and had a really solid day.
A lot of very smart people under that tent. It's not a surprise to see them start to figure things out. No strangers to GT3 racing. And you have to also keep in mind that a lot of the same staff were part of the K-Pax teams over the past few seasons. And if you remember from the pre-race show, we showed you how strong K-Pax was here back as far as 2021 with the 2 Lamborghinis finishing 1-2. Back on board with Neil Verhagen here as his pursuit of Robbie Foley continues.
GT3 cars absolutely fly through the S's. In the middle of the S's, they're still touching about 140 miles an hour. They're not really slowed down, about 95, 100 through the apex here. Flat out through this next left-hander coming up. Plunge down the hill. This is one of the areas of the racetrack that has been resurfaced, but you can still see the bumps there, the skipping of the tire through that brake zone.
Talking to GT3 drivers in particular this weekend, many of them felt like even with sections of this track having been touched up since we were here last, the bumps are more pronounced than ever. Some have migrated even. That's something that's interesting. You wonder maybe why a racing driver would do a track walk every time they come to a track. That's one of the reasons why, because tracks do evolve over time.
It's There's been a lot of discussion over the years. I mean, this racetrack opened in 2012, been home of a US Grand Prix since that time. Didn't have one here in the COVID year, but a lot of discussion about the substance underneath the race surface itself, like the soil and the dirt, how it moves around, and not a really solid base, so they're always chasing it seems, which is such a shame because it takes such huge investment to start resurfacing these racetracks, but if the foundation is not great, you're always going to be chasing that problem.
20 minutes gone by, hour 9 minutes to go. If you are joining us for the first time this year but have watched this championship in the past, you'll be wondering about the pit window, but that's part of the regulation change. That is gone. It's just a stint length concern that you need to keep in mind, which of course de facto creates a pit window for teams to monitor, but for teams like Regulator Racing right here with Jeff Burton, how early can they make the pit call, Cal, to put their pro like a Philip Ellis behind the wheel?
Yeah, as we mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, 51 minutes and 16 seconds to go is when the pit window opens, and 40 minutes to go is when it closes. So it's really, like you said, there's still a window to have to get it done. It's just that it's a little bit bigger because you got the pit lane transition time that you can incorporate to get your driver in, get the car in, do the driver switch, and by the time that second driver leaves pit lane, still only have 50 minutes on the board.
A look at Tommy Milner in this DXDT Racing Corvette going to work. Right now, he's separated from the leader in his class, that's Elliott Skier, by Trent Hidman. Now at Sebring, that car that Hidman is in, that was a pro class car when he was paired with Spencer Pumpelly. They had a wonderful weekend, did RS1 at their home track. But this weekend, Hidman is partnered with Jake Peterson, who is running as a bronze-graded driver, at least for now. We'll see if that sticks or not. His pace yesterday was really good. But that has that car currently in the Pro-Am class, and Hidman sits 4th in class, 5th overall.
Yeah, initially early in this race, when we saw Milner in kind of that Porsche soup, I thought he's just being patient because really this is the car that he's kind of eyeballing right now. Tommy's a really smart guy and he's thinking about the big picture of the class win. Can't really worry about those two BMWs up front that are kind of escaping it a little bit because they're running in a different class. But for Tommy Milner and his teammate Alec Udell, it's all about the positioning of that 120 machine, which is about 3 seconds to the good right now, with Hindman in between Milner and Skier.
Race settling down for the moment, as you see in the picture-in-picture, Adam Adelson. This will be his race car come that pit stop. He'll take over from his good friend and racing mentor, Elliott Skier. They are quite the dynamic duo. A lot of fun to interact with those two. Of course, they raced together last year in the Pro-Am class, and they were joined for the Indianapolis 8-hour by Callum Ilott, who's been in the news a lot as of late, winning in the World Endurance Championship in a Porsche prototype. And Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier pointed out to me that they gave Callum Ilott his first run in a Porsche. That was at the 8-hour last year, so they claim 50% of the credit for his win for Hertz Team COTA at the World Endurance Championship a few weeks, or really 1 week ago.
Yeah, good luck getting some of his prize money.
Right.
Callum's a busy boy at Indy this week as well.
Sure is. Missed the Fast 12 shootout by a couple spots, but firmly in the field. That's George Kurtz. Crowd strike by Riley. This is the car. We know they will be making the trip over to Belgium for the Crowd Strike 24 Hours of Spa. Just had some success in that event in the past.
Class winner there, and they announced their driver lineup. Nicky Katzberg is going to be joining them, along with Ian James, who kind of spearheads the Heart of Racing programs, both here and on the global stage.
Looking forward to that event as ever. If you look at the Fanatec GT schedule here in North America, you'll notice a big gap between events, between this event here at COTA, the next one at Circuit of the Americas. Part of the idea is to give teams and drivers the opportunity, staff as well, to make that trip over to Belgium, take part in that event, which serves as the capstone, if you will, in the SRO portfolio globally.
watch this hill, this approach up into turn 1. It is absolutely incredible. 11-degree incline, 100 feet of elevation change. Tip over the hill right at apex, plunge down the hill. It's so dramatic from outside of the race car. Kind of flattens the feature a little bit with the onboard camera, but when you look at that hill from down in turn 2, it's amazing. These BMWs are holding really good, consistent pace, seem to be knocking laps out within a 1/10 of a second of each other. For Hagan, just a 1/10 of a second quicker than Foley. Foley still has a 1.5 second lead right now. Colin Brown has responded. He's run a lap time, 2:05.5, just a few hundreds off of Foley's best of the day. And he's only a second behind these two BMWs, so he is keeping them honest.
Right now, there's just one car running in the 205s, and that's actually Tommy Milner back in 6th in the 63 Corvette. If you look at the lap times for the top 5, they are all either 206.1s or 206 flats. That's some idea of just the level of parity when you get the pros in these cars.
Yeah, I mean, you got 6 cars today within 0.2 of a second leading this field. Yesterday we talked about top 7 fast laps were within a couple of tenths. So we got some top pros doing their thing, strutting their stuff right now at the front end of this field.
Zach Veach from Stockdale, Ohio, in the Racer's Edge Acura NSX GT3. Currently chasing down Tom Sargent, the veteran of single-make Porsche racing from Australia, of course, but came over to the States last year to race in Carrera Cup North America. Got linked up with the GMG group, plugged into this race car, and also plugged in to help Kyle Washington in his development, and has been a success story in both cases.
Luca Mars there waiting for his opportunity to jump aboard that Racer's Edge number 93. But yeah, talking about Tom Sargent, really great young talent, got great speed. He's done an awesome job this year. And not just in terms of his driving, but also bringing Kyle Washington up, boosting his performance. We all knew that Kyle Washington had some raw speed there, but he's really fine-tuned his racecraft as well. Had a really excellent run this morning. Almost had a chance at grabbing the lead and the win over George Kurtz, who did take victory earlier this morning. But nonetheless, it's been a big step for him this year.
This has been fun over the course of this race. Alan Metney and Jeff Burton, they've been seemingly tied together. It's as if they're tethered. Burton towing Metney around. This is 8th and 9th in the Pro-Am class. Burton just plugging away. His drive time is about to come to an end. Just a few minutes away now from the pit lane potential.
Yeah, he's about 36 seconds back of the lead right now, so that's about a 2.5 second a lap delta between he and the leader. So going to be a lot of work for Philip Ellis to get through. But again, if we do catch a full course yellow, safety car comes out, that will change the complexion of that completely.
Alan Medney in that silver S's Racing Mercedes from right here in Austin. Is a former Carrera Cup champion in the Pro-Am class. That was back in 2022, driving for the Kelly Moss team. Did a partial season in Carrera Cup last year, but missed some races, had a non-racing related injury that cost him some seat time. Cool to see this program come together for him. And a lot of experience in single-make Porsche racing. A little bit strange to see Alan Metney's name attached to a Mercedes, but here we are. He's doing a pretty good job on his home track in his first real opportunity.
Yeah, he has done a really nice job. Really solid run for that team here this weekend. Had a good day yesterday. Seemed to have good performance in that Mercedes. But here we see Tommy Milner, as you mentioned, fastest man on the racetrack over the last few laps here. He's gradually finding the sweet spot of that Corvette. Seems to be coming into its own right now. He's closed in on Trent Hinman. And again, his focus has to be on that green Porsche. That's all he's worried about, keeping him well within sight. If they can execute a good, clean pit stop, there's potential to leapfrog right there. And also, It'll then be all about Alec Udell's performance going up against Adam Adelson. So it's the driver combination and factoring that in as we get deeper into this race. And it's going to be a similar situation at the front of this field with Robbie Foley's teammate going up against Neil Verhagen's teammate.
Yeah, so for Foley, that is Justin Rothberg, who's been impressive, but is still very new to GT3 racing. And for Verhagen, it's Samantha Tan, who is at the top of her game. I think it's safe to say she was turning some remarkably quick laps in race 1 yesterday. And I'm keen to see how that battle plays out this afternoon.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rothberg has been really poised when he's been under pressure this year, despite his low level of experience at this GT3 game, but doesn't seem to get rattled. Samantha's got really good pace. She's going to give him a hard time, I think, this afternoon for that victory, but again, long way to go. Pit stops still have to be executed as well.
The subject of good pace, this Corvette's pace over a stint is impressive. We're seeing some of the cars in front start to drop off with their lap times, but Milner's been pretty darn steady. Running right now within 3 or 4 tenths of a lap from his best lap of the race, and he has caught Trent Hickman here, no doubt about it.
Car looks to be working well. It stays very flat to the ground. It just seems to hug the road. I would assume that it's easy on the tires if you've got good balance in it. Seen certain areas of the track, particularly yesterday, were demonstrated where you know, it was really trying to take advantage of some of the cars that it was around. So you can really put that Corvette in some places around this race circuit that maybe some of the other cars, like the BMW, cannot.
Jeff Burton just did this car's fastest lap of the race at a 2:07.3. That compares to Foley running a 2:06.1. Only 1.2 seconds differential over a really long lap, 3.5 miles. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it is, and we've mentioned it a couple of times already today, and I noticed that early in the weekend that he seems to be much closer to the front-running pace, and that's really going to pay dividends. We see Bill Auberlen, the BMW legend, celebrating what about Turner's reign with BMW. Bill Auberlen, I think, is in the 500 range now, 550 or something like that. Starts for him with BMW as well, so they almost match each other, even though Turner gets 4 a weekend, Bill only gets 2. And he's also in his 28th year with that brand. Just incredible history.
Really, really cool stuff. We'll expect to see Bill behind the wheel before too much longer. Same probably for Philip Ellis, so let's take the chance to chat with him now.
And Philip's very happy with what Jeff is able to achieve here in this first stint as well. And why is this part so crucial to the success of this alternative strategy?
Well, it really depends if I can call back in the guys that are leading the race right now. So all in all, Jeff's job is really to be as close as he can. And I think the conditions now are very difficult for everybody. It's very hot in the car, it's very hot on track. So it's not a great, it doesn't feel like a great car to drive at the moment, but I think everybody has the same issue. And I think for those conditions, he's doing a great job.
Philip, talking about the conditions inside the car, he was just icing down his hands and in preparations for his stint. I asked from 1 to 10, how uncomfortable is it out there? He said a 12. So that's also what Jeff Burton is dealing with, guys.
Well, we did mention at the top of the show, it is hot, well into the 90s, and not just hot, but humid. Now, a lot of these cars, the newer GT3 cars, there's been a lot of work done to make the cockpit as comfortable as possible, but even still, even if you've got the AC working, there's no way it's going to be a pleasant Sunday drive around Circuit of the Americas today.
And Philip Ellis talked about the fact that, you know, the conditions are tough on the tires and on the drives, but Neil Verhagen just laid down a lap at 2:05.897. That's only a couple of tenths off his best, and has closed 4 tenths on that one lap alone to Robbie Foley. That gap went from about 1.5 seconds down to just over 1 second, and at the same time they're dropping Colin Brown a little bit.
Back on board, Neil Verhagen. He's closed in, Calvin. He ran a 2:05.8 that last lap. That was 3 tenths quicker than Foley. That gap has closed to under 1 second now. This is the battle for the lead, not just overall, but also in the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, maybe there's a lot of management going on by Neil Verhagen's perspective. Once he lost the lead of that race, couldn't control it from the front, just saving his tires. Car has been super consistent throughout the course of this run. He wants to just get really close to Robbie Foley. If he could leapfrog around and have an equal pit stop, that would then give Samantha Tan the track position to work with versus her having to pass Rothberg once they get back out on the racetrack together. But great to see these two BMW pilots doing such a fine job here this afternoon. Looked like they had a half a second over the field, but everyone has gradually inched up to their pace as the races wore on a little bit.
Milner still sizing up Trent Hidman. Has yet to find an area where he can exploit a weakness as we look at Race Vision powered by AWS. 3 different cars with the fastest times in the 3 different sectors. So sector 1, that's the green sector there on the track. That's car 29, that's the race leader, Robbie Foley. Neil Verhagen, though, just put in his best lap of the race the last time by at a 2:05.6. That's the quickest car through sector 2. And the 08 Corvette, that's the recovering Brian Sellers, actually, quickest in sector 3.
Yeah, he's got pace. It'll be a disappointment for Brian Sellers and his teammate, Scott Smithson, there, that they had that first lap damage and contact, we assume, from the broken valve stem. But it's still a learning process. They're just learning about the car. They learn more and more every time they go back out onto the racetrack, and they're going to be awfully tough to beat, I feel, by the end of the season. But right now, this is a great battle here between these 2 BMW pilots. Verhagen is closing in on Robbie Foley. How aggressive does he want to get here? Does he want to try and wrestle that lead away, or is he comfortable just trailing him into pit lane? And that pit window opens in a couple of minutes, but expect these 2 drivers to stay out onto the racetrack. The latest they can pit is with 40 minutes to go in the race.
Burton and Metney still dueling. Back here in 12th and 13th, Burton really doesn't want to waste time in a fight here, but he also doesn't want to relinquish the track position and give Philip Ellis more to do when his stint begins. There's some dirt on the track there.
Yeah, there really is, really wide through there, and Metney's trying to force his way through. Just got to try and keep it clean here. He cannot afford a moment. That would really ruin the day. He cannot pit at the end of this lap. I think it'll be the following lap. We'll see that 91 Regulator Racing car on pit lane as Philip Ellis gets suited and booted and ready to go.
Burton keeping Metney behind him, but perhaps losing a little bit of time in this battle. Every second crucial for their strategy to play off if it stays green. Of course, if they get a yellow in the second stint, that is perfect here today for Regulator Racing. Same story for AF Corsa, Custodio Toledo.
You can see the difference there. Philip Ellis getting ready. Samantha Tan still checking her phone and getting prepped mentally, I'm sure, but helmet will not be on for another 5-10 minutes or so. Up front, Foley and Verhagen very, very closely matched. It seems like Foley seems to have about a tenth of a second advantage through sector 1, and Neil claws that back through the second sector, and then they're very evenly matched through sector 3, so they're just trading punches right now.
Saw some of that reflected on our Race Vision powered by AWS a few moments ago. The 2 BMWs quickest, but in different sectors. And here we go. This is...
Well, they're bringing him in early. I think they're going to have a lengthy pit stop here, not to run afoul of the minimum stint time. It's 76 seconds. He's already on pit lane, so they're going to keep and hold so that they don't allow Philip Ellis back out onto the racetrack before that 50 minutes to go mark is there.
That's interesting. So let's watch the driver change, refueling as well. New Pirelli P0s going on this Mercedes. Burton climbs out, Ellis climbing in. Burton helping with the driver change, of course. All of this choreographed.
Interesting strategy by electing to pit him a lap early. I really think they got to compromise their minimum stop time here. I think they're probably about 5 seconds too early to do the minimum stop time and not get Philip Ellis back. This is going to be, I think they've released him too early, guys. Look at the clock. Maximum stint length is 50 minutes, and that is registered when he gets past that orange board that you see, drivers or our right, drivers left.
He might have slowed down.
Yeah,
I think he got the message, or did he?
This is a problem. He's 10 seconds early by
We'll see, maybe
It's a
Amanda
strange
can
one.
get an answer to that question for us. I'm trying to think of...
He can correct it by coming down back down pit lane again, but man, that is a huge mistake, I feel.
The reason being transit time in pit lane does not count towards your stint length. Well, we've had a couple of those in our races this weekend. The GT America race earlier today, there were a few head scratchers regarding teams' interpretations of the regulations. We shall see. In the meantime, we watch here as Trent Hedman continues to keep Tommy Milner at bay. Foley and Verhagen still just a second between them at the top of the field. And it's Colin Brown sitting in a healthy third position. Here's ST Racing. This we did anticipate. This is the car that Varun Choksi started, and Bill Oberlin will finish, and they're in great shape from a regulations perspective. This is right on time. Just need to have clean pit work now. Trouble with the right front there, but they do get it.
We have about 10 seconds sort of leeway on these stops. There's plenty of time to get this done. There's no real panic unless it really goes wrong.
This will be a car to keep an eye on in the second stint, too. Custodio Toledo is out. Bit of a difficulty getting the seat insert out. And Riccardo Agostini goes in. He was the pole sitter for race 1 yesterday and is really, really quick. And he'll be on the comeback drive.
You see those mechanics sort of like just throw those wheels on. Just to put it in perspective, that is like a heavy suitcase. That rear wheel weighs about 54 pounds, and they throw them on like they're a paper plate. So it takes a lot of workout to make sure you're not pulling some muscles when you're heaving those wheels around.
Yeah, it's like chucking your checked bag around like it's a carry-on, and it is not. Okay. Stop there. That is Milner coming in to hand over to Udell. That shows a lot of faith in Alec Udell's pace. It also gets that car out of traffic. They've been stuck behind the Porsches the entire opening stint. So DXDT electing to try the undercut here.
And I think that really also demonstrates their faith in Alec Udell and the job that he can do. Tommy Milner's been super impressed. He has nowhere near the GT3 experience that Tommy Milner does, and did 20 laps at Sebring. The team liked what they saw and gave him this opportunity, and this could be a career game changer for Alec Udell, because I really feel he is an immense talent, and he's going to grasp this opportunity and really showcase what he can do and really put him on the map.
I absolutely agree. And remember, he won a GT4 European Series Silver Cup Championship back in 2019. Those are fields of 50 or more cars on a given weekend, and he did it largely on tracks and with a team that he was not familiar with. That is as impressive as just about anything, and he has a pretty impressive CV, but never quite in an opportunity like this one. We'll see if he can take full advantage of it here this year. Foley continues to lead. Verhagen is second, then it's Brown. Skier, the leader in pro, still in the 4th spot. Here comes the Racer's Edge car. Luca Mars is in. They're trying the same strategy effectively as DXDT that we were just talking about a few moments ago.
Pit stop execution there, not ideal. They left 3 seconds on the table there, a 79-second stop. 76 is what you're looking for, and that's exactly what DXDT did with the 63 machine with Alec Udell now behind the wheel.
ST Racing left some time on the table too with Bill Oberlin and Varun Choksi. That changeover took about nearly 5 seconds too long.
And that will hurt Bill Oberlin. He likes to really work on those driver changes, makes them as sharp as he can. He leaps out of the car when he's getting out of the car. Just literally springs out. He's always wanted to look at the details. Another 5 minutes or so before these cars have to hit pit lane if you haven't been in yet. The pros are staying out there trying to extend their stint as long as possible. See, some of our runners have gone a lap down, including Agostini there. You saw the red Ferrari in the backdrop of those couple of Porsches. And look at Ellis, immediately on the march, laid down a new fast lap at a 2:04.830. Saw it yesterday, fastest lap. He is on the attack. He would love to catch a caution and compress this field and then put that speed to work. See him accelerate down this back straightaway. 1 kilometer in length. Got fresh tires. Clear air on the nose of that Mercedes, and these are going to be a series of really fast laps he's going to try and put together here.
Still, the question with this car is going to be about the drive time and whether or not they release that car too soon with too much time remaining, with a maximum stint length set at 50 minutes. There was, to our eyes at least, over 50 minutes on the clock. That's one thing that still needs to be resolved. In the meantime, leaders working through some traffic here, passing the S's racing car that has made a pit stop. So Will Hardiman has taken over from Alan Medney.
Last lap, Foley and Verhagen, their lap times 2:05.939, exactly the same to the thousandths of a second. Talk about evenly matched race cars and drivers.
Fantastic. Turner Motorsports prepping this car. ST Racing prepping the 38. BMW building consistent cars across multiple chassis. Here we go. Pro Class leader in the pits now. Elliott Skier set to turn over to Adam Adelson.
Could have gone 1 lap deeper into this run if they chose to do so. Working the undercut here, try and get Adam out there on some fresh Pirelli P0, see what he can go to work with. But that means right now that Alec Udell, what sort of pace has he got?
We've only seen the outlap so far from Udell. Here is that DXDT car that won overall yesterday, delivering General Motors the first win for the new car.
Yeah, correction there. They're really done the overcut on the car that they really got their eyes on the 63 car, because they came in early and got Alec Udell behind the wheel. So it's more the overcut. Didn't want to leave it out there too long in case there's a caution and then you're susceptible. So I think the 63 car pitting forced these Wright Motorsport Group to bring in Elliott Skier, so they didn't get caught out with the yellow kind of coming out and controlling the pace at the lead of this field. Alec Udell's got up on the wheel really, really quickly here. This could be a fascinating battle, seeing him and Adam Adelson duke it out for this Pro Class victory. You see Udell on the front straightaway, Adelson's coming out. Tires come out of the ovens, so they got some temperatures of really warm day, so he's got to get to work quickly. Udell's already into a rhythm. We'll have the tire pressures where they need to be by now. Now he's going to go on the attack. They are close.
Alec Udell charging down the hill into the S's here at Circuit of the Americas. That's the car he's chasing. That's his quarry. Fresh out of the pits, just his second year GT3 racing. Adam Adelson inherits the class lead, but will soon come under pressure from this car. Brand new entry this weekend from DXDT Racing. Tommy Milner with a great first stint. Now can Alec Udell finish the job? Same thing for Skier and Adelson. In the meantime, this is the pit stop for the rest of those that have yet to come to the pit lane. Foley, Verhagen, Brown, Hinman soon as well, making that pit call.
Foley, really good first sector there. He gained 0.3 of a second through that first sector on that in-lap, so he's gapped Neil Verhagen a little bit on that crucial in-lap. Should give that team the opportunity to get Justin Rothberg out in front of Samantha Tan. That's going to be a classic battle as well. This is the gap in the Pro Class right now between the Wright Motorsports car driven by Adam Adelson right now. I think that maybe Udell should have a little bit more pace than Adam right now. We'll have to wait and see how this one shakes out. Samantha Tan getting strapped on. New set of Pirelli P0s going on board.
We previewed this potential battle, and it looks like that's what we're going to get with Samantha Tan up against Rothberg and George Kurtz in the mix too. Okay, Rothberg's been released. Now we wait on the ST Racing car. They wait, and we'll slot back in second, just the same order they came in. That seems to indicate the pit stops were clean. Let's check the times here, Cal.
So close there. 0.4 quicker for the ST Racing Group, but they're both just outside that minimum time, so they're both good to go.
Good work by the Riley bunch as well. And the Pro Class leaders now roaring up the hill into turn number 1. They'll be catching the back of that group. Bit of a delay for RS1, by the way. Jake Peterson taking over from Hidman and was about 8 seconds slow on that stop.
Oh. That is tough. It's really tough. It's going to give Kyle Washington an opportunity. Maybe chase him down here. See how this one shakes out once we get everyone back out. That'll happen on this lap. Everyone should have completed their pit stops by now, otherwise they're in trouble.
Samantha Tan looks to be closing in on Rothberg. Udell looks to be closing in on Adelson. We could have some fun here in the final 39 minutes of race 2 here at Circuit of the Americas. There goes Rothberg, there goes Tan. We wait for George Kurtz in the Mercedes, and then the battle for the pro lead.
Yeah, Rothberg a little bit quicker through sector 1 than Samantha Tan, but Samantha takes a half a second out of that gap in sector 2 alone. She is on the attack, and she is right there with that fellow BMW. Looks like Udell's getting a little bit closer to Adam Adelson. He's got up to speed very, very quickly. Nice job by Adam here on his outlaps.
Samantha pushing. Rothberg overstepping the bounds just a little bit. Chasing the traction in that car. That allows Samantha Tan to close in just that little bit more. Right there in the tire tracks. Couple of BMWs battling for the overall lead in COTA.
Based on yesterday's performance, I think Samantha Tan may be a little bit more comfortable with this circuit and this race car here at Circuit of the Americas. She could have an advantage here.
Puts that power down cleanly out of turn 20, and Samantha Tan appears to have a run. This is for the lead with 38 minutes to go. Tan looks inside, looks outside. Can't make up her mind, finally commits up the inside of Rothberg, who leaves her racing room, but Samantha Tan can't quite outbreak the rookie, Justin Rothberg.
And this is going to be the next level of her graduation to being a fully fledged pro driver. Just these moments in terms of handling them, putting it all on the line, having enough aggression to get through without making a mistake. And we've seen Rothberg so often this year just feel very poised in the heat of the battle and defending well. You just got to be assertive when you make that move. Establish yourself alongside the car on the inside and then slow her way down. Don't come from too far back. Don't surprise the other driver where they're turning in, where it's too late. But you can't afford to get into the rhythm of the driver in front of you right now. She has a speed advantage, I feel. She's got to keep that momentum and that flow going.
Meanwhile, the Pro Class leader has caught George Kurtz, so Adam Adelson, who fought Kurtz for the Pro-Am title last year, now find themselves in different classes. We'll check on that in a moment. Samantha Tan again weaving left and right, but can't find the gap to attack. That was awfully close, though, between the two BMWs. Here's Kurtz, here's Adelson. He closes in on the 0-4 and will need to make quick work of the out-of-class traffic with Alec Udell closing in behind him.
Look at the two BMWs working each other over through this stadium section here. Now for Adam Adelson, he cannot afford to lose any time here, clearing the CrowdStrike racing entry. Otherwise, Alec Udell will be right there. Samantha Tan back on the tail of Rothberg once again. That was so close in that brake zone for turn 12. I thought she was going to just tap him as he was turning in.
Looked to my eye like Adelson had cleared George Kurtz behind these two. That gives him a buffer, at least briefly, to Udell. Once again, Samantha with a nice run out of turn number 20. She thought about the move the last time. Both now of the Pro Class cars have cleared George Kurtz, so it's a clear fight between Adelson and Udell for the Pro Class lead, unless George Kurtz decides he wants to get mixed up in it. I'm not sure that he does. He'll follow the Corvette into the braking zone for turn 1.
Yeah, I think for Kurtz, he just needs to hang on to the coattails there of those two cars in front of him that are out of class position and see if they can go chase down these leaders.
You'd think that they would be able to reel these two in, and maybe George can follow them forward. Up and over the curbs, right on the very limits of what's allowed. On board again with Samantha Tan. The car started by Neil Verhagen.
Caught him in a hurry, but now she's kind of got into the rhythm of Rothberg here, so she's got to develop, try and come up with a plan here. She's got to time it. You can't afford to be slowed right at that critical phase, right mid-corner there. You got to be able to roll through. If you got a little bit of a pace advantage, a grip advantage, roll through the corner. just be accelerating off with more miles per hour. So evenly matched there. You'd have to think that maybe the Turner Motorsports car has a bit more straightaway speed, maybe running lower downforce there, because she should be closing in when she picks up the draft like that, but that should make her better through the handling sections, through some of the corners if they are running a touch more downforce, if I'm reading that correctly. Does she surprise Rothberg right here? He trims that curb, doesn't really open up the door there, but that compromises his exit there. If you go in shallow, you're going to come out wide. This triple apex, it's so hard to make a move here. Let's not forget, as we get deeper into this race, there's going to be more marbles, as we call them, offline, where you kind of get these little shreds of tire rubber disposed just outside the racing line.
This section here has been good for Samantha over the last few laps. She's been sizing up Rothberg right here, and Rothberg gets wide. Will that cost him some momentum? In the background, you see Adelson and Udell have closed up too, so 2 battles for the lead in each of the 2 classes happening simultaneously down the pit straightaway.
Yeah, and for Adelson, they want the win, right? They want max points, but they got to think that 63 car is not in the championship. How aggressive does Adam Adelson get in defending this pro lead? This is going to get interesting if the Porsche and the Corvette do catch the 2 BMWs to see how they sort themselves out. Could create opportunity for Udell. Samantha Tan looks to the inside, not quite there. Time and time again, we've seen it so often this season, Ryan, where Rothberg has been in these situations and just stays calm and poised. Doesn't get rattled, it seemed, but he is feeling the heat right now from Samantha.
We often talk about the benefits of running in GT America in addition to Fanatec GT. And for Justin Rothberg, who is a GT3 rookie, he has the chance there to get wheel-to-wheel experience racing against the likes of Johnny O'Connell and George Kurtz, Jason Daskalos, many of these same drivers in this race here too. And we've seen him take some of the lessons learned in those single driver races and apply it to his Fanatec GT career. He finds himself at the very front of the field, but under a ton of pressure right now as Samantha Tan looks wide, trying to make the long way round work here. Puts the bumper to Rothberg as well. She's not messing around here, Calvin. Samantha Tan wants another win.
She has to go because Kurtz is running lap times about 2 to 3 tenths of a second faster than these 2 BMWs, so he's got to get... Oh, here we go. Now she opens the door, gets it down to the inside. Beautiful move by Samantha Tan and takes the lead.
Samantha Tan saw the gap, didn't think twice. She is through, and she leads race 2 at Circuit of the Americas. In the meantime, here comes the Pro Class battle for the lead, catching up to the top 2 in Pro-Am, led by Adelson with Udell hot on his heels.
Adelson has just done a great job, but now he's got to try and figure out, headlights are blazing right now. He wants to get by Justin Rothberg as quick as he can and not open up the door for Alec Udell. I think Kurtz has got enough pace to maybe get to the tail of that 29 car before we see the checkered flag this afternoon. But over 31 minutes still on the board.
Should also mention Philip Ellis on that alternate strategy. He's charged back up. He's to 9th. Augustini is to 12th, and both of those guys are running really quick laps at this stage in the race. They really need a yellow here in the final 30 minutes to get caught back up. Leader in Pro is caught 2nd in Pro-Am. Let's see how Adelson elects to use this traffic. Remember, he's just 1 year removed from being the Am in a Pro-Am lineup too. Now he finds himself in a Pro seat. There's an extra layer of responsibility, especially when dealing with traffic like this, in order to deliver a result for the team.
Yeah, and he's used to multi-class racing, running in IMSA as well this year, coming off a brilliant podium run at WeatherTech Raceway just last weekend. So they're getting a ton of seat time. They're learning their craft. But Adelson having to get defensive. Here comes Udell, slips to the inside, not quite close enough, gives it up. Adelson really shallow on the attack there to that corner. Udell should get a better run off the corner. Rothberg hasn't gone away. He's kept Samantha Tan in his sights. Kurtz is continuing to cut really fast race laps.
Thrust, parry, riposte. It looks like a couple of fencers exchanging blows for the lead of the race in the Pro Class. here at Circuit of the Americas, the number 120 Porsche. Car started by Elliott Skier, now Adam Adelson behind the wheel. Tommy Milner started this Corvette. He's watching intently, trying to see if the young charge Alec Udell can find a gap, find an opening. Adelson found a gap. He's to the inside of Rothberg, and Udell right there trying to follow him through. He's to the side at least of the BMW, but will he be able to clear him coming to turn number 1?
Yeah, I think he was just a little circumspect there. I wasn't sure if he thought Rothberg was going to turn and elected to not go with Adam Adelson. Now he clears him up the front straightaway, so I think Rothberg is just trying to settle back in here, recognizing they're two cars that are not running for the same class position. This is helping George Kurtz. Kurtz's last lap was almost a second faster than Justin Rothberg, and he's about 5 seconds back here, so there's plenty of time here for George Kurtz to get that CrowdStrike racing entry up one position. That's important for the points, with the 38 car taking over the lead here yesterday with their win.
In the inset, Elliott Skier on the radio with his good friend Adam Adelson. He's doing a wonderful job to keep Alec Udell behind. Udell doesn't have too many laps in this car, hasn't done a ton of racing at this level, but does have a lot of experience. He started racing in his teens, came up through Spec Miata into the World Challenge ranks. A lot of success in everything from Porsche Cup cars to GT4. Now this big break at the GT3 level with DXDT.
Well, I thought that maybe Udell would have enough pace to get to Adam Adelson, but Adam Adelson is just being defiant here and trying to hang on to this win. Doing a really nice job. Rothberg has dropped back here a little bit. I thought he found a little bit of pace there on that previous lap, but he just settled back in. Maybe he recognized they don't have enough pace to fight for the win here today. Just take the big points.
As expected, Philabella's not the fastest car on the track right now. He's up in the 9th spot overall. Has a lot of work to do to get to Peterson. That'll be the next car in class there. Oh, Udell's got some momentum. Just not quite confident enough to throw it up the inside in the brake zone there in turn 20. Maybe recognizing there's still plenty of time with 27 minutes to go. And then the possibility of some traffic that could play into his hands too, because these two are starting to make some inroads, closing in on Samantha Tan.
Young Alec Udell is a super smart kid. He's not going to make a risky move. I just look at his personality, and I think he's just going to be really clever about where he decides to try and stick it down the inside. I think Adelson, I think he just loves racing. He's just got that sort of feisty personality. He's going to scrap for this one, I feel.
Talked about Udell racing as a teenager. There was a documentary made about him actually called 150 at 15. Talking about basically a 15-year-old going 115 miles per hour, 150 miles per hour for a time at least. And I'm not sure if this record still holds, but he at least used to hold the record for the youngest driver to win a Pirelli World Challenge race.
Udell really squaring off the corner there to try and get his hands straight, get back to power earlier off turn 11. Picks up the draft there a little bit. Mid straightaway, they look pretty even, but then it looks like the Porsche maybe escapes his challenge a little bit and just gives Adam Adelson that clearance as they get to the brake pedal. This is where the Corvette is really good, through carving through some of this twisty stuff, it looks like. Just seems like you can place it in. The Porsche has to just flow through here, or it seems like Alec can just carve the corner a little bit tighter if he needs to. Right there you can see it tuck to the inside, maybe trying to get some air on that splitter as well. Now he looks to the outside, bold move, tries to surprise Adam Adelson there side by side through the turn 19 apex. He gets the inside for turn 20.
Udell in prime position, trying to take the lead away from the Wright Motorsports driver, and he does. There's the celebration in the DXDT pit box, but guys, don't celebrate too soon. It's not done yet. Down the front straightaway, Adelson looking to counterattack. Udell right down the center of the road. Adelson lets it swing out wide. He'll look to cross over the Corvette driver at the exit of turn 1.
But Udell keeping it really neat and tidy. This is that moment when you need 100% focus and concentration just to hit your marks, not over push these corners and just try and escape his clutches here. And then you should have enough pace to kind of settle back in again.
Udell is clear. He is through to the Pro Class lead. The only car out the windscreen now is Samantha Tan, the overall leader, but not a car he needs to concern himself with as far as class position or the points are concerned. That said, I do think he's got the pace to run her down and perhaps deliver DXDT a second overall win in succession.
Yeah, and I think for Samantha Tan, she needs to be talked through the scenario. She's done such a brilliant job here by having the pace, first of all, and then making a really nice move to get the lead of this motor race. But if Alec Udell gets to the tail of that BMW, she's really got to be talked through the scenario. How important is that overall win compared to maximum points here today?
Calvin Phillip Ellis is flying. He just did the new CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race at 2:04.8. He has just about run down Bill Auberlen for 8th on the road, but the thing we still don't know is what the drive time situation is going to be for Ellis. Speak of the devil, here he comes, 2:04.814 to be precise, the new CrowdStrike fastest lap of the race. He's got Bill Auberlen in his crosshairs. A couple of out-of-class cars that he needs to clear here with Auberlen and Mars, and it won't be easy because I think Auberlen and Mars both think, well, why give up any position here? We've got to fight amongst ourselves. This is 3rd and 4th in the Pro Class.
Yeah, and I've been waiting for a message to come up, but thinking about it, the officials can't do anything until he exceeds it, which will happen right at the finish. So there's nothing that the officials can do. I'm not sure if anyone's going to try and make the team aware if they are outside of that by when he released off of pit lane. But by our calculations, he's in a bit of trouble.
Now that the battles for the lead have sorted themselves out, there are a few pieces of information from the pit stops that I've been waiting to pass along. Well, first of all, we've got this penalty, a post-race 3-second time penalty for the Acura, now driven by Luca Mars. We talked about Zach Veach picking up a couple of warnings during his stint, and they have now exceeded the number of warnings that they are allotted. This is the Acura in question. Luca Mars has run down Jake Peterson, it looks like, but Auberlen now all he needs to do is get within 3 seconds of Luca, and he'll have that position post-race. A couple of other things of note. We had a few long pit stops. I noted the RS1 pit stop. Evidently the car shut off on Jake Peterson as he was trying to pull away. They had to get it restarted. That's what cost them time. It was a really long stop for GMG, over a minute too slow in the changeover from Kyle Washington. That put Kyle Washington in the car, I guess, after Tom Sargent started it, as Phillip Ellis makes the pass there on Bill Auberlen. And the problem with that pit stop for GMG was the seat belts. They couldn't quite get them plugged in the way they needed to. Here's Mars working on Peterson. Not for class position, but a change for 6th on the road. The Acura coming through, and will need to now scamper off into the distance with that 3-second post-race penalty to still be accounted for.
Peterson's got really good pace here. Been running 207, low 1:207, so he's catching George Kurtz a little bit. Currently sits about 8.5 seconds back for that final podium spot in the Pro-Am category, so we'll have to watch for that as this race winds down a little bit further. I think he's got enough time on the board to make it happen.
Ricardo Agostini, another one to keep an eye on. Remember, AF Corsa elected to go with the same strategy as this car. And Agostini has made up a couple spots. He's in 12th. Still has some work to do to catch the next group of cars in the Pro-Am ranks. But if there were to be a yellow, that would absolutely fall right into their hands. With their rapid Italian pro in the car up against the less experienced drivers in the vast majority of the other Pro-Am cars.
Yeah, really nice young man. Got to spend a little bit of time with him here this weekend, meeting him for the first time. So Riccardo Agostini we're talking about. Italian driver, ton of success in recent years in Italian GT racing. Had a Good single-seater career. Actually got to test a Ferrari at Vallelunga as part of a prize for winning the Italian Formula 3 Championship and Rookie of the Year.
A Ferrari Formula 1 car, let's be clear.
Yes.
Not just a Ferrari sports car. It's a pretty big prize.
I said, how was that? He said, not enough laps. As you would expect. It's just a taste. It's like licking the ice cream cone, but not eating it up.
Did you ever get to test any F1
no,
cars?
I didn't. I actually had a promise with the Tolman Formula 1 team back in my Formula 3 days that I think they expected me to do better in Formula 3, but the promise was there with a big testing program. That didn't ultimately happen, and Ayrton Senna coincidentally then drove the car for the season in 1984, the year after.
And we know how
I
that
think they
story
picked the right guy.
Right. Well, as mentioned, Alec Udell has caught Samantha Tan. How much will she fight for this? This is for the overall lead, but not for class position. Udell really wants to get this done, and he has accomplished it quite quickly.
Smart.
Yep.
By Samantha Tan there, just letting him go, tucking back in. She's done an excellent job here this weekend.
Next target here for Philibellas is Peterson, and this is for class position. This would be for 4th in Pro-Am.
Yeah, so for Philibellas, I think he's got enough pace here to catch George Kurtz for that final Pro-Am spot. Maybe Rothberg as well. But the big concern is him coming out onto the racetrack with over 50 minutes still left on the clock.
I know Amanda's been asking the questions down in the pit lane, and the team is opting not to provide a whole lot of clarity, as is their right, of course, but it leaves us to speculate. Nice move there by Ellis, though, to get around Peterson for the 4th spot, and now he puts his head down and sets off in search of the next target. And that next target is this car. George Kurtz, kind of a quiet day for CrowdStrike by Riley. Colin Brown ran 3rd his entire stint. George Kurtz, 3rd in class through his stint here so far. Not sure they had the pace of the BMWs here today, but they will know well as the reigning champions in that Pro-Am class. You stack a bunch of podiums together at the end of the year, it's probably going to put you in a good position to go for the title at the Indianapolis 8-hour in October, which once again will be the final stop on the schedule here this year, and once more also plays a part in the Intercontinental GT Challenge powered by Pirelli, part of the SRO's Global Championship for GT3 manufacturers that started at Bathurst back in January and February, and then we'll transition to the European continent with a couple of 24-hour races. This year it includes the 24 hours of the Nürburgring for the first time, which is extremely cool. Of course, the 24 hours of Spa too. Here we go. This is what we thought might happen. How quickly to put a bow on the IGTC conversation. The season finale for that this year will be Indy. We thought the only fix for them might be a trip down the pit lane. Do you have to do service for it to count?
I don't know. Basically, when you're on pit lane, your drive time stops. So all they needed to do was drive through pit lane. So I'm not sure why they're doing a top up unless something went amiss. They had 2 problems maybe. They miscalculated the maximum stint time, and also they miscalculated how much fuel they needed to put on board that race car. So try and get clarification on that, but we always felt that he's about 10 seconds too heavy in terms of the drive time potential. But when you come on pit lane like this, your drive time stops and is not calculated in the overall number.
All right, so they should be then on even footing from a drive time standpoint from here on out, and we will see what kind of progress Ellis can make. But yeah, that is costly indeed, and looks like that will drop them effectively to the back again, barring the 08 of Smithson. I think that's right. We'll check and see when they come around. 15 minutes, 35 seconds to go. Maybe a little clarity with Jeff Burton, who's standing by with Amanda.
Yeah, I find Jeff with his helmet in his hand walking on pit lane. Can you tell us what happened there, Jeff?
We came in 11 seconds short, and we had to put enough splash of fuel in and take that 11 seconds. So that kind of took us out of it right at the very end, which was pretty tough. Because Philip was going, again, fastest guy on track. So we're trying.
It started with a very excellent stint from you too, Jeff.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, Jeff did an awesome job there today, really set the stage, and they were on for a podium run, if not a bit more. I think Samantha Tam would have been out of range, but I certainly think that Rothberg and Kurtz and company were certainly within range with the pace that Ellis has. So I don't understand the splash. I mean, you know, unless it's just kind of saying, well, we needed a splash of fuel rather than we made a mistake calculating the drive time. But either way, tough day for them.
What could have been, but you know, in some ways it's heartening because they have proven that this approach strategically, it will work. They were the first ones to try it. I think everyone in the paddock stopped and thought, well, wait, what are they doing? What's this driver nomination? When we saw it at Sonoma, but they've tried it now 6 times, 6 races to start this season, and every time they have had the pace. And especially in these second races, if they could just catch a yellow, they have a really good chance to win one of these races.
Yeah, I think they can. They certainly have shown the pace to do that, and I think Jeff Burton's really the key to unlocking that potential with his pace this weekend. They were right there. But again, getting back to that pit stop saying we're short, well, they weren't underneath the minimum stop time, so they should have got plenty of fuel on board. There was plenty of time to top that car up and have enough fuel to get the finish. It wasn't like they short-filled, and that's why they came out the pit lane early. They weren't underneath the minimum stop time. It was just they miscalculated by bringing Burton in a lap too early to do a normal stop and get back out with less than 50 minutes on the board.
Right, the issue was drive time, not the stop time. And our understanding, at least, of the rules would indicate that just a pass through the pit lane would have probably been enough to get them on the right side of things. Nevertheless, it is what it is at this point. Ellis has dropped down the order accordingly. He still has 13 minutes to try and recover a spot or two. And that's good news for this team, because that was their next target. And in fact, George Kurtz might have something even more up his sleeve, because he has caught Justin Rothberg steadily over the last few laps, and with 12 minutes to go, this could be a battle to watch.
Yeah, and Kurtz has improved his pace. I thought at one point George Kurtz was vulnerable to the pace that Jake Peterson had, but now they're running very similar lap times, so George Kurtz has got his head down. He also would probably have got that message, listen, you can't just sit there at that pace. You're going to get caught by possibly Jake Peterson aboard the RS1 number 85 car. And also, by the way, if you do find a little bit of pace, you can catch Justin and maybe grab P2.
And look at the rate at which George has caught Justin over the last 3 laps. Nearly a second better on lap 34, half a second better on lap 35, and again close to a second quicker on lap 36. So we are about a lap away from having a battle on our hands here for 4th and 5th overall, 2nd and 3rd in the Pro-Am class, with just over 10 minutes to go. Good stuff.
I think for Rothberg, I don't think he's been quite as comfortable at this circuit as we saw him at Sonoma and at Sebring. I look at the delta between he and Robbie Foley this weekend. That's kind of gone the other way. We talked about Burton being a little bit closer to his teammate. But it's all part of the learning curve. Do you know what I mean? For Justin Rothberg, he's getting a lot of racing by running in GT America as well. And I think that's just put them in this vulnerable position where George Kurtz is paced right now, pushing hard to grab that 2nd position in class.
Still very early in the development of Justin Rothberg, Ferrari Challenge champion of a season ago. That was in the Trofeo Pirelli AM class. There's Colin Brown, one of several Texans in this field, although he doesn't live in Texas anymore. But he watches on as his co-driver of many, many years, and client as far as his coaching services go for many years more than that. George Kurtz is reeling in Rothberg, who is being coached and mentored by this guy, Robbie Foley.
Just catching the text, maybe someone's on, he's on TV.
Oh, look at Kurtz. He rolled a ton of speed through turn 20. That brings him side by side with the BMW of Rothberg. This tends to be where the BMW excels, but the momentum that Kurt's carried has allowed him to arrive in turn 1 right next door to Rothberg. Rothberg holds the spot, but Kurtz will try to cross him over. They stay side by side in the run down the hill. Can Kurtz stay next to him? If he can, the track comes back to him right here. Oh, it's going to be tight, and Rothberg hangs on.
Kurtz put a move on Johnny O'Connell here yesterday in the GT America. It was almost a cut and paste, but Rothberg didn't want to give it to him. Kurt's a little bit wide. He's going to be in the dust there in the marbles. He's got to be careful here. Tires may got dirtied up a little bit. Got to take a couple of corners just to settle back in, get those tires clean, then go back on the attack.
What are the points implications of this fight?
Well, it's a 3-point swing here, so they really need it because the 38 car grabbed that championship lead last night. The 38 car of Verhagen and Tan now lead the 04 car by 8 points. And the way they sit, that's going to be blown out a further 10. So Kurtz has got to do everything he can to minimize the damage here today.
Samantha Tan continues to lead in Pro-Am, and she has kept Adam Adelson behind her. Alec Udell has a 2.5-second lead over Samantha for the overall lead. And then you come back to this battle, Rothberg and Kurtz. Luca Mars, some 7.5 seconds behind. Then it's Jake Peterson, Bill Oberlin, Ross Schwest having a nice day today. For Schwest Povolato Racing, he's 9th. Elias Sabo, though, is right there. That could be a battle, or is a battle now, here in the final 10 minutes. And Ricardo Agostini is reeling that duo in, too. Philip Ellis starting to close on that group, but he's got a little bit of work to do to get there. A lot of things still up for grabs.
Well, Rothberg, as we've said so often today, is just very stoic in terms of defending when he's under pressure. And even though I don't think he'll be happy with his ultimate lap pace this weekend, we'd like a few more tenths, but he's got to be happy they're sitting in P2 and hanging on to it with just 8 minutes to go. Foley on the radio there, just talking him through this situation, making him aware, like, just position your car here, then there's nowhere for him to go. Robbie's so good at that, just mentoring young drivers. Did it with Michael Dinan a couple of years ago when he won a couple of GT4 championships.
And remember, for Robbie Foley, his mentor was Bill Oberlin. So it's interesting to see that trickle down of knowledge from the undisputed BMW master to his young disciple, Robbie Foley, who becomes the master in turn several years later.
Yeah, he's really come a long way. He's just a true professional, Robbie Foley. You got another BMW factory pilot, Neil Verhagen, in this race as well. So this championship is certainly attracting the manufacturer's support to bring in their top-level drivers and try and go after race wins and championships.
Riley Brain Trust, quite literally, right there next to Colin Brown. Bill Riley, a team with so much experience over the years. Colin and Bill made the transition over to Riley Motorsports a couple of years ago, and that's really helped elevate their game. It seems like a great fit, single car team, all the focus on them.
So Kurtz has regrouped here, got his tires cleaned off, got back on the wheel and closed back in on Rothberg, but time is running out. We know Kurtz can dig deep. He's put together some sensational moves over the last couple of years to grab positions, grab victories. But Justin Rothberg seems to be resilient in these situations.
Wondered if this battle would materialize, but it has. It is real and it is spectacular. Fighting for second and third at Circuit of the Americas. Rothberg and Kurtz coming onto the front straightaway, but time starting to run out, just 6 minutes to go.
Kurtz, solid car length behind. That's too far back to try and make a move. Seems to roll good. Apex speed right there. Get a run down the hill, but then you're in at that high speed. S is really risky to make a move through here. I think he's really got to time the back end of the S's and see if he can be in position to dive down the hill into turn 11, maybe make a move on that BMW.
Oh, Agostini, so aggressive, so late. Up the inside of Elias Sabo. And that is for class position. Ricardo Agostini up another spot. Samantha Tan leads the class. Rothberg and Kurtz second and third. Peterson fourth. Schwest fifth. Agostini, though, on the cusp of a top 5. Meantime, here comes Kurtz. He's got momentum. Closing in on the rookie, Justin Rothberg. But Rothberg in that BMW, just enough grunt in a straight line to keep the Mercedes at bay.
Yeah, Kurtz timed the run through 9 and 10 there perfectly, but didn't really give him the acceleration or the closing of the gap there into that brake zone. Just felt he was too far back. And as a driver, you just sense that. You just know if you're in that sweet spot, it just feels right or it feels wrong in terms of making that lunge down the inside. And it's going to be too desperate.
Inside the final 5 minutes, given perhaps a straight line deficit for George Kurtz, that's what we appear to be observing. Where can he bounce? Where can he take advantage of the BMW's weaknesses?
I think maybe Rothberg's given up a little bit of time through 19 and 20, so I think turn 20 is potentially an opportunity. If George can just time the run, he's dropped a little bit too far back, I feel, on this lap, but got a couple more laps to work with. But I would say when I compared Rothberg to Samantha Tan when they were running close together, it seemed through this little sector right here that he might be a little bit vulnerable. You see there, Kurtz gets a run. He gets through turn 19 a little bit quicker. He needs to be closer, get that run, and then just dive down at the inside into the apex for turn 20.
Kurtz caught that curb, and that car twitched in a big way. He kept his foot in it, though. Didn't lose too much ground to Rothberg. By the way, doesn't really matter for points or anything like that, but just should note, Adam Adelson did pass Samantha Tan on that last lap, so pro class cars now run 1-2, but it's nearly 6 seconds between the two of them. In the meantime, we do have a battle for the final podium spot in pro. Actually, though, I think it's pretty much settled because Mars owes a 3-second penalty post-race. As long as Bill Oberlin runs right where he is, they'll be on the podium
And he
today.
needs to know that. He absolutely needs to know that. Stick with him. Stick with Luca Mars, and then you can still grab that podium spot.
I'm sure the team has communicated that, and the veteran Bill Oberlin will know exactly what to do. Kurtz in the slipstream of Rothberg here. 3 minutes to go now. Podium positions in both classes up for grabs. And nothing will be settled till the checkered flag flies at Circuit of the Americas. 6th race of the season. But approaching a critical juncture. When we get out of that break, we'll really be in the midst of the points battles.
Here we go. This is where Kurtz needs to do his work. He's got to get close to Rothberg through this stadium section here. When he comes out of 15, he needs to be a lot closer than he was the lap before. And then he really needs to time that run through turn 19. Thinking about it here. Now he just needs to set up. Focus on the exit right here. Get close to him. Oh, he's going to try and open up the door there. He gets a big run there, uses all of the runoff room. Oh, washes out wide, loses the front end. This may be opportunity over.
Remember, that's where Samantha Tan made the move on Rothberg, and I think he learned the lesson there. He didn't keep the door open enough for Kurtz to come through that time.
Pretty tight here. I think they may have 2 more laps to go.
I think so.
The overall leaders haven't taken the checkered flag yet, so this is good news for George Kurtz.
Taking the white flag, yeah, that's right. I believe you're right. I think we're looking at a couple more laps. Udell continues to lead overall. Adelson 6 seconds behind. Then Samantha Tan by her lonesome right now, running in the 3rd spot overall, but leading in Pro-Am. These two are battling here for 2nd and 3rd in the class. Rothberg has done a great job. Tell you what, in a short amount of time, he has built a reputation for being a really tough guy to pass, in a fair way, let's add, earning the respect of his competitors over the course of this season, and that talent is on full display at the moment.
Yeah, he just doesn't get rattled, does he? Just continues to do his thing. He's like, okay, you may have a couple of tenths on me through this little sector, but I'm just not going to make it easy for you. You're going to have to find a way through, but Kurtz here really flies through turn 10. Just feels he's too far back there as you get to the brake zone. I think Rothberg's pretty good on the brakes there. And turning in through this corner. BMW should have a little advantage there on straightaway speed, so that makes it tough into the brake zone for 12.
Rothberg is making this look easy, but Calvin, you know, It is not an easy thing to be inch perfect around this racetrack when you've been under pressure for 15 or 20 minutes.
And it makes it hard because the racetrack is so wide to just continue to run your best lap, because you need the wide entry to some of these corners. But if you do so, you just leave the door wide open. So it's really a catch-22 situation for Kurtz. He's just got to try it and time this again. Do what he did before, but just settle in and really focus on that run between 19 and 20. This right here.
Expecting the white flag coming out of turn number 20 for Alec Udell, and there it is, the white cloth extended out of the flag stand by Tom Hansing. 1 lap to go at Circuit of the Americas, and still so much to play for, including this battle right here.
Right here is where he needs to fire. You can see him come through there with a bit more speed. He's not quite close enough, however. He just needs to be a little bit closer as they approach 19. Just enough that you can still get the nose hooked up and not get any aero wash there and fire it down to the inside. But Rothberg's hanging on. He's got to do it for 1 more lap.
1 more lap, another 20 perfect turns, 3.5 miles for Rothberg as he tries to fend off the reigning champion in the class, George Kurtz, who has closed in over the course of a few laps. They have some out-of-class traffic behind them that's also closing in. That could also have a part to play as Luca Mars tries to escape Bill Auberlen. He needs to build a gap of at least 3 seconds over Auberlen to hold on to that spot, given a post-race penalty that is incoming.
That's only at 0.9 across the stripe on that last lap, and Auberlen actually seems to be closer to Mars there, so he'll have that information in his head. I'm sure that the ST Racing team will be alerting Bill Auberlen to that, but now Jake Peterson is right there. Auberlen does not need Peterson to make a desperate move here and get in between him and Luca Mars, but it looks like they've gapped Peterson enough to keep the pressure off. Now Auberlen goes down to the inside. I'm not sure he's got the message about that 3-second penalty on the Race's Edge machine.
Wow, that was a big move from Auberlen, and it gives him the spot on the road, at least temporarily. Mars, though, fighting back. All of this happening behind the battle for 2nd and 3rd in Pro-Am. This is for 3rd and 4th in Pro on the road, but again, the red Acura still has a 3-second time penalty coming for track limits abuses post-race, which makes this a bit academic. Mars does edge back ahead of Auberlen. That brings Peterson up there too, but in the meantime, Alec Udell, the young man with a mechanical engineering degree who grew up idolizing the original engineer-turned-race car driver, comes across the line looking for the checkered flag, and Alec Udell, DXDT Racing, Tommy Milner, they win and sweep the weekend here at Sebring. 2nd place to Adam Adelson, and the win in Pro-Am to ST Racing, Neil Verhagen, Samantha Tan edging out that points advantage. Boy, oh boy, what a result there. And here comes this final battle for the podium spots. To the line, Rothberg holds off Kurtz. It's Mars heading home Auberlen, although that will swap positions with the penalty. And Peterson comes home 8th overall. But Alec Udell, like I was saying, grew up idolizing the Penske legend.
Philip Ellis on the last lap just went crash strike fast lap at a 2:04.67. You think he's fired up?
Yeah. Mark Donohue, the idol, of course, of Alec Udell, following in his footsteps, an engineer-turned-race car driver. Augustini crosses the line, doing a nice job to charge back into the top 10. Wow. Interesting race. What might have been also for Ellis. You mentioned that CrowdStrike fastest lap on the 2nd to last lap. That car had the pace to do some special things today. They just didn't quite nail the strategy. As we look at race progression on Race Vision powered by AWS, Tommy Milner held station in his stint. They dropped down when they pitted relatively early in the window, put Udell in, and Alec Udell did exactly what they needed him to do.
Yeah, really polished performance there by Alec Udell. Doesn't come as a surprise to me knowing the young man and what he's done before, but still the pressure was on. He handled it beautifully. Hats off to Adam Adelson in terms of really digging deep and finding some pace and making it difficult for Alec. And this car, unfortunately, had a bad pit stop, but Carl Washington, I feel, has had a really strong weekend for him personally.
Yes, agreed. Was on the podium in GT America. Might have had a chance to win the race today in the SRO 3 class. To your point, that pit stop cost them any chances of a good result here today, barring a late race caution. But nevertheless, step forward in performance out of Kyle Washington. Curious to see what the second half of the season looks like for him. Race results for race number 2. Alec Udell, Tommy Milner for DXDT Racing. They pick up the win for the second day in a row. Big result for this team representing Pratt Miller, Corvette, General Motors, and the like. Adam Adelson and Elliott Skier, look, the car that beat them, they're not really fighting for the points because they came in late in the season, so that's a good result for Skier and Adelson with a championship in mind. Samantha Tan and Neil Verhagen going from strength to strength. This is a pairing that when they debuted at VIR last year immediately made an impact, and they have not let up since.
No, really strong driver pairing there. Great team. ST Racing have really come on a long ways over the last handful of years, and Samantha's, I think that was her best performance we've seen. She's put in some great ones over the last couple of years, but that was top shelf stuff there.
Big result for Samantha, who is commemorating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month here this month and in this weekend in particular at Circuit of the Americas. In addition to her normal name, of course, Samantha Tan, she also has her Chinese name, Song Shin Shin, on the roof of that car. So a very special moment for her, picking up the race win, finishing third overall too, and had really strong pace over the second half of that race. Great job by Samantha. We'll be hearing from her along with Neil Verhagen very soon. Alec Udell and Tommy Milner for the second straight day, parking it in Victory Lane. We'll hear from them shortly too. There is Alec getting out of the car. This is that opportunity we talked about that he has been waiting for to showcase his talent. I think he's going to have a very good chance to do that as Samantha Tan gives a hug to her father, Ken. Down in Park Fermé, Neil Verhagen with a smile on his face. Quite a duo those two have turned into in a short amount of time.
There's Nick Johnson coming in, her driver coach, and kind of mentor her. He's done a great job in terms of accelerating her progress in this sport. But Alec Udell, you mentioned it. Yeah, I mean, we've known about his talent for a long time, but now he's got the opportunity. And this is being alongside Tommy Milner is better than just being in a single driver lineup, because you can really sort of like showcase what you can compare with a top level and established driver.
Great benchmark for Alec, that's for sure. Well, celebrations starting down in the pit lane, and Amanda is amongst those celebrating race wins today. What do you see, Amanda Busick?
Oh, Alec Udell has been in a conversation with Greg Gill just about the success of the Corvette that we've seen here this weekend. The hat is going to be presented by Greg Gill. And Alec, I talked to you yesterday right here before podium celebrations, and you were kind of surprised about the success so far, being so quickly. How much of a statement was this for this platform?
Yeah, I think it's a testament to the platform, to all the engineers that have put a lot of hard work into getting this car where it's at. I think, you know, from the team side and the joint venture between Corvette, Pratt Miller, and DXDT Racing, it's been very awesome for me to be able to jump in as well and kind of plug myself in and be a seamless part of the program. It's great for the customer racing teams that are looking at the Corvette as an option. It's a very proven platform, I would say, at this point, and so to be a part of that proven process is really cool, and to have the people to learn from like Brian and Tommy with DXDT and all the people, it's just been more than I can ask for, and looking forward to where we can go from here.
Well, as we await your co-driver, Tommy, to arrive, I just want to go back to, as we see this Corvette opening up and developing right in front of our own eyes, from race 1 to race 2, did you notice any differences?
Hey, nice job. Great job. Yeah, it's hotter. I think, I mean, my feet on the ground as I'm standing here are starting to like melt a bit, it feels like, but, oh, thanks. Yeah, I think just a matter of like really conserving the tire. You know, in the middle of the stints, I was fighting a bit with Samantha and with Adam, and great battles and great drives from those two drivers, but I think I was able to conserve a little bit more the tire and really put that to use more towards the middle and end of the stint, and that made the difference. So again, it's me learning what to do in the car to make sure that it goes the full length of the race as well. Yeah.
Tommy, this is probably a large question to be asked at this point, but you guys joined into this effort, third event into the season. We're going to be hitting the halfway point at the next event. Can you guys contend for a championship?
I have no idea, honestly. I don't know what the point situation's like, but the biggest thing of being part of this program is helping with this team with these new cars a little bit. They've done a great job so far with it, and just kind of helping kind of put the final touch on things a little bit. So we'll see. Championship's one thing. I think for us and Alex, it's just about again helping this team continue to grow a little bit and learn these cars, and hopefully get some more race wins here.
Race number 1 and 2 for Corvette right here in SRO America. And I'm sure Calvin's already working his pencil. They at least got a 14-point dip into that championship in the pro category, and a sweep of the weekend for ST Racing in our Pro-Am class for Neil Verhagen and Samantha Tan. And San, I'm going to come to you first, because we were standing on the front stretch when you took the overall lead at the time that you did over Justin Rothberg, and the crowd went insane. Just watching this, and your co-driver just saying how much you are developing, what was key in getting that pass done?
Oh man, there was a lot of motivation today. I mean, been getting a lot of hate comments on social media, was digging deep, and just tired of being told that I'm not good enough, because I know I have the skills and I'm out there to show it.
You also raced under your Chinese name here this weekend. How much pride is in that?
I mean, it's API Heritage Month. It's an absolute honor to be able to have my name, my Chinese name on the car this weekend, for sure.
To the hate, Samantha can and did do it here in Austin, Texas, twice seeing the checkered flag for this effort, and Neil Verhagen continuing to be the co-driver alongside Samantha Tan. A lot of praise coming to you in and outside of this paddock. How is the praise for you?
Yeah, I mean, I got to give the praise to her today. I made a mistake on lap 1. I allowed Robbie to get by, so I was pretty disappointed with myself there. I think they had a little bit more than we did in the beginning of the race, and as the stint went on, I was able to edge my way there, but it's so hard to pass with these cars, and Robbie's a fantastic driver. I was waiting for him to make a mistake. It just didn't come. But yeah, Samantha was able to use the benefit of the new tire in the stint to make a move on Justin. So well done to her. She did an amazing job. It was great to see that she was able to make up for my mistake.
Neil admitting to that miscue, guys. They get the win.
And there you see what we've been talking about, having her Chinese name on the car. And this is how she got the lead, Calvin. Fantastic stuff. She had been setting this up for a couple of laps.
Yeah, just gets the power down, and as Justin Rothberg opens up the door a little bit, she just slips down to the inside. Beautiful move, very controlled, but enough aggression there to grab the lead, and she had to, because they could have been feeling some heat from behind if she hadn't made that move early enough.
Continues to be a big season for Samantha Tan. Highlights from the second race of the weekend. It was the ST Racing car that started on the pole and did control the early portions of the first lap, but that would change pretty quickly. Chaos a little bit further back in the pack. Everyone, though, made it through turn 1 cleanly. Big moment in this race for the second DXDT Racing car. Actually, that's coming up in a moment. First, the spin from Andy Lee after a little bit of contact. No penalties assessed. They continued on. Mentioned DXDT Racing with the problem. Brian Sellers at one point had to come in with a puncture. They got that taken care of, but that waylaid the sister car. The undercut strategy was crucial for this car, putting Alec Udell in as quickly as possible. Started knifing his way up through the field and immediately put the fight to the leader in the pro class. At the time, it was Adam Adelson. Made the pass there in turn number 20 and would not relinquish the lead from there. But that said, Adelson did fight back down the front straightaway, ultimately had to relinquish that position. This was for the overall lead. Udell up the inside of Samantha Tan. Both of those cars, though, would go on to win in their respective classes. Coming out of the final turn, the win for Alec Udell, Tommy Milner, and DXDT Racing. ST Racing picking up the win in the Pro-Am class. A perfect weekend for them. To the podium now, where the Pro-Am class will celebrate the top 3. Right in the center of the screen, Samantha Tan and Neil Verhagen with another first place. They continue to impress. George Kurtz and Colin Brown, a runner-up finish. Looked like it might have been in the cards, but ultimately settled for third. Justin Rothberg did a great job holding on despite immense pressure late in the race. He and Robbie Foley will take home second place today.
Yeah, really good points for them. And with that sweep of the weekend, Samantha Tan, Neil Verhagen have an 18-point lead unofficially over the Kurtz and Brown duo, and Robbie Foley, Justin Rothberg just nipping at their heels right now.
Shaping up to be a fun championship battle down to the wire with an 8-hour race at the end of the season. That always throws a spanner into the works, and once again, it's the full race distance that pays the points here this year.
It really does, and again, I mean, these pros are so evenly matched with Neil and Robbie. You saw that with the two BMWs. Colin Brown always struts his stuff inside that Mercedes AMG machine. So it's coming down to the amp pairings, and every one of those drivers is learning a lot. We've seen Kurt certainly develop over the last 3 or 4 seasons. Samantha Tan is coming on gangbusters, and Justin Rothberg very early on that steep learning curve, but he's done a really solid job. He races well, very stoic in his defensive positions on the racetrack. I think this weekend he just needed to find a few more tenths of pace. Otherwise, it could have been a different story. But he'll be happy. Good points, good in the learning process.
Don't want to put the cart before the horse with Justin Rothberg. Just 6 races into his GT3 career at the Fanatec level, at least. But he strikes me as someone who could be on the trajectory we saw from Adam Adelson, who showed up as a Pro-Am entry 1 year ago, did extremely well, and then 1 year later is now part of a pro car.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's going to get better. I mean, he's got a great history in Ferrari Challenge, was competitive there. He's got a great mentor and co-driver in Robbie Foley. Robbie works really hard with his co-drivers to make sure they're learning every nuance of the game, and he's doing a tremendous job. I mean, talking about him in a few tenths off this weekend has been super critical. He did an amazing job.
And again, the Turner Motorsports team deserves the credit, too. Great infrastructure to come up through the ranks with them. We've seen a number of young drivers come into Will Turner's operation and go on to big, big things.
Well, they do it in a calm and relaxed way. They're very professional. They're very serious about their racing, but they have fun at the same time, and they embrace, you know, having a bit of personality and enjoying the race weekends. And I think that's a great place for a young driver to learn in.
About time for the Pro Class podium. Bill Auberlin and Varun Choksi. They elected to go with the alternate strategy. We've seen it work in the Pro-Am ranks. How do you view how that plays out amongst the Pro Class cars? Not sure we really saw it make a big difference one way or the other this weekend.
Yeah, I don't think it's such a big factor in the Pro Class, and I think the big factor with them is they need to use this brake. They've got to get out and do a little bit of testing and try and sort that car out, because we know how good Bill Auberlin is. Varun's done an amazing job. I mean, he's been super impressive, actually, in terms of his pace in relationship to Auberlin. I think if they can get the car tuned in a little bit to their liking, they're just saying when you look at the setup on one car, the 38 machine, versus theirs, it's way different downforce levels, different rake and ride heights in the car to get the balance where the drivers can be comfortable in it. So they need to sort that out, and maybe they'll be a little bit sharper for the second half of the season.
This summer break comes at the right time for that team to try and identify some of those problems. Right Motorsports drivers, Elliott Skier and Adam Adelson, right-hand side of the screen, they continue their strong run of form. You can tell just how hard Adam has worked. That was a big sigh just to lift the trophy.
You can see it was the finishing driver.
Right.
The sweat on the fire suit.
Yes, and then in the middle, Alec Udell, Tommy Milner, and David Askew, who is the owner of this DXDT racing team, front and center as he deserves to be. This is really cool stuff to see this team take the next step this year and really contend as part of a new program with a brand new car.
Yeah, it takes a huge commitment, and David's in it for the long haul. There's elected to step out of the driver's seat and focus on the team and their setup, and establishing this relationship with Corvette Racing has been fantastic, and it's certainly bearing fruit very, very early in the game. I'm not sure everyone expected to see Victory Lane this early, but congratulations to everyone involved.
Big smiles all around, and I'll tell you what, it presages big things to come for DXTT Racing, and there's the celebration.
Skier was off the mark pretty quickly there, wasn't he?
I'd say so. Well, with that, we head towards the summer break as the SRO world focuses its attention on the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa. Hope you enjoyed the coverage here from Circuit of the Americas. For Cal, Amanda, and our whole team, I'm Ryan. So long from Austin, Texas.